I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Do we have any bills or anything else that we need to go through?
Pass around the sign-out sheet, if you guys wanna sign in.
Looks like we have payroll, for, bill 2,520. It is 42 hours, we just, again, we just need to be careful, only because we did meet with the town accountant, and we don't wanna empty our salary fund. We did get a resume in too, so.
I'd like to make a motion we approve the payroll.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Do we technically have to approve the bills by vote or just signature? What's the?
We like to vote, we do vote.
There's no problems. I'm just, it's at the back of last row.
Being
Just like
past
yours.
7 o'clock, notice of public hearing, Charlton Planning Board, proposed marijuana zoning bylaw amendment pursuant to MGL Chapter 48, Section 5, the Charlton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, September 26, 2018 at 7 p.m. in the Senior Center in the George C. McKinstry Building, 37 Main Street, Charlton, Mass. on a proposed zoning amendment to revise the marijuana bylaw adopted at the 2018 annual town meeting. The proposed amendment revises the use table to specify where marijuana establishments and medical marijuana treatment centers will be allowed by special permit of the planning board. Other changes to the bylaw may be considered at the hearing. The complete text is available at the planning board office and town clerk's office for public inspection during regular business hours. Any person interested or wishing to be heard on the zoning proposal should appear at the time and place designated. So we should all have. Now, over the last few meetings, we've kind of edited this, made some changes. The biggest being no's across the board and by special permit in the IG zone. Do we have discussion among the board at this point?
As far as these regulations here?
Yeah, and any, I know you had.
Yeah, I had a
wanted
couple
to
of
see- Did that,
other things that, reading the CCC guidelines on requirements, they also mention a few other things that towns might wanna do. One is smoking accessories limited to, establishments with licensed marijuana, cannabis licenses, instead of having it open to whoever. I don't know, that's something the town is interested in, and
like does CVS and the pack stores, can they sell this stuff?
I think they can now. I think it's an open, I believe they can now.
And the CCC
Once
is
it's legal.
saying that, I was reading we proposed, so I guess I'm assuming that it's legal then. Bill, is that?
Yeah, I was just looking at 94G, which is the state law for marijuana, and it does say that a community may govern the time, place, and manner of marijuana establishment operations and of any business dealing in marijuana accessories.
Accessories.
So it does appear that some regulation in that area is permissible.
Yeah. So I don't know if you wanted to limit it only to establishments that have licenses, to be able to sell those accessories. or
So
do
that
we
would
want
be just
those,
a retail license, you mean?
a retail license? Or
Um,
retail or medical, yeah.
Medical.
either.
I know you guys sent me this in email too, and I just haven't had a.
It's just
chance
something to
do
think
that
about,
detail.
that and, I was in Colorado a couple weeks ago and I was asking some questions about some issues that they've had. And I was talking to a realtor there that said one of the biggest problems is, and it's illegal there, but people still do it, is grow for personal use in multifamily homes. So, and I'm not sure that there's any laws that govern that now in the state, but it's something else that you might want to
So-
think about because there are odors that are associated with it
And, so, I'm a landlord,
Yeah.
and I have properties, and you have seen the experience in the same. We can't prohibit them from growing, and the big issue is obviously the humidity,
Mm-hmm.
because we can't, but we can prohibit if we have an overall no smoking ban in indoors, they
Keep
can't
them
smoke
smoking.
it.
Yep.
So
The
it's,
personal consumption
Is,
issue has been taken out of local control, it's
Yep,
established
sure,
in state law, so
sure.
you can't do anything in addition to what the state law allows, which is, I think, 6 plants
Per
per person,
adult.
a maximum
Sure.
of 12 per household.
but I definitely like I'd rather not have our kids going into CVS to buy whatever candy and.
Honey Farms or-
Right, exactly, and see, does everybody else think about.
When they say accessories, what are they exactly talking about? That could bring, is there?
Pipe?
Pipes and bonds.
yeah, I think that's what they refer to. There is a definition of it in the.
Okay.
Like, there's a whole industry, there are
regulations.
people who just literally blow glass and make them, and
Yes.
so,
Yeah.
does that mean that when Shepherd Hill has their little craft fair, can they have,
Seriously.
I'm being,
Well,
and
they
that's,
can.
that's Dudley, but I'm
Sure.
saying, like, we have them in our churches and stuff.
Yep.
So,
Sure.
is that something that, like, overall, that any accessories only?
Well, I think it's the same like when Prohibition was lifted. You can buy alcohol in an alcohol store. You can buy shot glasses in any local little Pepsi stores. I don't see why you would change the rules for marijuana. It's legal. So, and just a conversation. But yeah, they could show up at a craft fair the same way a shot glass manufacturer could show up at a craft fair. Now, will they probably show up at a craft fair? Probably not. But of course they could, much like anything else. Go into Chet's smoke shop. Does he have marijuana stuff? I have no idea. But he could because it's legal. So, and can you really ban that? Because then you'd actually have to make a list, and we learned this through 508, of exactly what we are banning. Because now you have your list of 50 or your list of whatever by specific specification, because I can also drink orange juice out of a shot glass. So, again, and not to bring it back, but what are you banning exactly?
I mean,
So-
I think what they say with like porn, you know it when you see it, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure that would,
Also not a
that would,
CVS.
that would fly, but,
Can I make a huge clarification? Accessories include vape pens and dabs. That's completely illegal on school grounds. You never see it at a Shepherd Hill craft.
I promise I'll open the hearing, we just
I
have to.
just want to clarify that. And CVS doesn't even sell tobacco.
Mhm.
They dropped it.
So we're not just saying just CVS, but there's, so it's just
Right.
something to consider. I don't know.
Is that something that we should leave open to the general public? Should we,
I think that'd be better.
and if the
Do it the
majority
same
of our,
Right.
is it best to leave it out now? And we're talking about it in public forum, right? That if the citizens, the majority of the town think that it shouldn't be there,
Mhm.
I'm afraid if we make this too restrictive, it
Okay.
won't pass. This
Sure.
is,
Right.
Okay.
this is clean and good and.
Okay.
I agree.
Sure,
And
that's fine.
if we get a little too restrictive,
Yeah.
and again, if our
Agreed.
if our voters come in and say, we want no everywhere, no, I'm like, and we
Right.
want no accessories, no anything,
Exactly.
then let them decide.
Absolutely.
They're the voters, and fulfill anybody's interest. I mean, obviously, everybody knows about this town meeting,
Mhm.
then let them decide.
Absolutely. I think it's a great idea. Because
That
you're
would-
right, if you, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, that would be up to the moderator whether to
To allow
allow
the
such a
mod-
motion,
but-
if that was within the scope of the article.
I mean,
That's fine.
I think that I mean, I don't see it's totally out of scope. I mean, allowing them to add an amendment like it was added for no off, nothing kept on site, remember that one? Like, that was
Mhm.
kind of, I mean, that seems actually much closer to the heart of this, to the details.
Yep, sure.
Other,
The only other change to this version is that the Attorney General struck out one of the provisions
Mhm.
that had been adopted on
Right.
the floor, so
Yep.
that's been struck
and
from this.
that's
Right.
that nothing can be,
J6.
turned on.
Yes, so that doesn't appear there.
So if do you have anything you wanna add?
No, I don't think so.
Now, when we were here, did the attorney that was here say we no longer have to have the definitions or something? She talked about or am I just remembering incorrectly?
I'm not sure.
I thought she said
Yeah.
that definitions were no longer necessary or something, but it just could be me. I just wanna make sure that everything's done.
I think-
But they did
yeah,
review this.
They did,
one.
right, so they would have commented on that, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. She had a chance to start.
So if, do you have anything? So if we're, done, let's open it up to the public and let's see if they can remind us of all the things that we missed. So,
May I start with a clarification, please? If I read 5.2, item C, the planning board shall not approve a special permit for more than 2 retail marijuana establishments. Is that inclusive of medical, recreational, or is that just one or the other, or
So-
is that in total?
It's in the definitions.
So if you look at B, B is for medical, C is for retail, adult
If
use.
you look at the
But it
definition.
doesn't say so.
So do you wanna say, change retail to adult use? Retail?
Well, under the definitions on page 3 for marijuana establishment, it just says marijuana retail use. So I think
I mean, I guess it's all adult use.
it's clear to me what, Don is right, that B is for the medical, and
Well,
C
it
is
does
for
say
the
under
retail.
definitions marijuana retailer. Does that mean inclusive of any kind of retail?
I'm sorry?
You're saying it's spelled out under definitions of marijuana establishment. Within the definitions is a marijuana retailer?
Retail.
So that doesn't really define to me whether it's a medical retailer or an adult use or recreational retailer. And if I read line C as a standalone, it just tells me you won't have more than 2 retail businesses, period.
So the law states is that we need to have the 2 medical. That's the minimum amount that we can have. I have no problem of having it adult use.
Change it to,
I think it
medical
just
retail and
clears it
adult
up.
use, or recreational retail, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we can change it to,
At the last town meeting, it got changed from 3 to 2,
Mhm.
and the lawyer said 2 was allowed. And I think that's how it became 2.
yeah, so 2 is the.
Medical and 2 is
The
retail.
minimum we could have.
Is it not clear that B is for medical and C is for adult?
I mean,
C doesn't really say, it just says
Retail.
Retail.
And medical is part
I've
of
read this
retail too.
thing so many times that
Right.
to me, like,
I
it's
understand.
medical or it's not, or it's
Right.
recreational.
Right.
But we can add
Yeah, but I think
recreational, right?
it's
the-
referred, referred to as adult use
correct-
recreational or something.
Do you wanna just
Adult
say
use.
recreational, just so so we know
So it's
medical
there,
versus
right.
Yeah,
recreational?
Okay, so is there 2
Two retail.
recreational?
Thank you for the clarification.
No,
Thank
thank you
you.
for,
Thank you.
So where would you put recreational after 2?
Yeah,
2
or C, right?
recreational retail?
Yeah.
Or
Yes.
C.
2 each. to medical to retail.
That's fine.
And,
I think so.
and
Alright.
typically,
It says just
the
Two
medical
each.
facilities are also the ones that sell retail, so
They're the
you're
ones
not
who
talking
they,
about typically four establishments, you're talking about,
two that are
two
capable of.
establishments.
Green Gold is gonna have one of each, and I think VGG wants to have one of each.
Well, Green Gold wants to have, medical and retail in the same building.
Yeah, but
that's
they're two separate doors.
but
I
it's
think.
two permits,
Yeah,
and
two
it
permits,
counts.
2 doors.
And it
It
counts as
counts.
2 on here?
it counts as
Sure.
one each,
One of
yeah.
each.
Yeah. And then VGG wants to have the same thing, and I'm sure it'll count as 2.
I mean, the money is in recreational, not
Right.
in medical.
Yep.
So
Right.
the law says that once you have a medical, you can get a retail.
Sure.
It just makes business sense to
Right.
have your retail, so that kind of, so pretty much 2 establishments. There is no limit for cultivation in here. And when I was reviewing this, that was in my mind. But I think that now that it's only an industrial, it limits itself.
Yes.
Because there's not that many locations, and it wouldn't make sense to have them
Correct.
1,000
Right.
feet from each other.
Because they're in industrial zones anyway.
The other thing is, this being a discretional special permit, don't we also have the ability to govern what's there and what we will allow? You know, if it, whether it fits into the town or the neighborhood or whatever. And so we can basically control that, unlike VGG, which is an allowed use.
Right, so that's the
So
problem.
this
And
is
and
a-
may I add in that it's not uncommon for strip joints to all be together, restaurants to be together, bars to be together. So when you say it doesn't make sense for them to be 1,000 feet apart, probably does make sense for them to be 1,000 feet. Just saying. It's pretty common.
Yeah, I think that's,
How much room do we really have up there?
Down
We've
the
got-
Sturbridge line.
here, all this,
No.
that's it, just right here.
But
Yeah.
available
What color is
space.
it?
I
It's
mean,
all,
Yeah,
it's
this
up
is
on
the,
Peach.
The beach, this,
It's all west of
and this,
169.
and Southbridge.
Then down 169 by the Southbridge line.
Once you allow VGG at the orchard in agricultural, does it set a precedent that other places can sue us and say, like, it's special treatment, we need to go there too?
No.
No, they were
Okay.
grandfathered.
I didn't know how it works.
We should have themselves. Yes.
All right, so we're just about through, we just wanna make sure that we're as thorough as possible, and I promise we'll open it up. I gotta keep the procedure down. I
Sure.
gotta kinda.
You gotta get it right
Keep
first.
control, so, what is this, so that was what I was thinking, that do we wanna set a limit for cultivation? And again, I was reading other bylaws from multiple other accounts, and it seems as though the limit is really on the retail piece.
Right.
But of course, everything's usually industrial, thinking that it's gonna,
I mean, I tend to agree with you. I think it makes sense to allow it in industrial without any numerical limits. It's an appropriate land use for that district.
I mean, I intend for this to get passed. And if we start, if it's too restrictive,
Exactly.
I think that all of the residents that own the land up there will show up
Agreed.
and say, we'd rather have nothing then. We'd
Correct.
rather just,
They'll strike it down. I think as it reads right now, it's a very clean change. I think it's worded well, I think it presents well, and I think it satisfies both sides. You start getting too restrictive, and I think you're gonna have the other side pushing back. And they'll show up in big numbers to push back, because the town, when polled, has more people that want it than don't. Not by a big margin, but by enough of one that if they decide that they don't want this to pass, they're going to make sure that it doesn't. And I think right now, though, it is very happy to both sides of the group, to both groups.
it's just not, when you look at our industrial area, it's,
Right.
I mean, you
They're
know,
limited.
unfortunately, when we think about things, we're looking at like VGG or,
Right.
and all we have to compare about, we can compare things to VGG and health wise, that's
Right.
it, that's what we have, right?
Mhm.
So, we just need to be careful, we have to make decisions based on what's going forward in the future.
Correct.
Residence is up in the near industrial. I've been driving up there for a while, so.
But they're all like majority on 20.
this
They
one
don't have,
section
they don't
here.
have a,
There's not.
they don't have a country road, a
Right, and there's
heavy
the Mass
residential,
Pike
yeah, behind it.
down there, the
Yeah.
Mass Pike is behind it, so,
Mhm.
um,
And I mean, manufacturing, you're talking, again, greenhouses, and there's no huge parcels down here.
there's
Yeah,
no
it doesn't
greenhouses, these are big
necessarily-
giant
yeah.
factories.
Yeah, these
These
don't
are
need
not
to be
greenhouses,
big.
Well, that's
they're
what I
giant
meant,
factories.
that's, sorry, I meant
These could be
indoor.
steel buildings.
Yeah, well,
and-
that's exactly,
And of course, you can require buffering adjacent to residential uses as you do for solar fields as well, so.
But we're not gonna have that same issue where there's 40 houses around it.
Correct.
Around
Yeah.
it. It'll give us more discretion to,
Mhm. agreed.
so,
Under the uses here, with maybe 4, that's what you're looking at.
yeah, and the only place anything could be completely is in IG
With special permit.
with special permit, and there's no outdoor and no social consumption, so.
Do we have anything limiting size or scope? I mean, we do allow co-location of different types of licenses. It doesn't say one type of license can co-locate a building. Do we limit it to 50,000 square feet, 100,000 square feet, so that
The
it's
Cannabis
100?
Control Commission.
Yes.
It's
The
limited as
state
100.
Be more
limits it
restrictive than this.
at 100 per
Per
permit,
license.
Per license.
Do-
So in cases where they're gonna go out and pull,
So do we not allow co-locations of grow licenses? We could do that too.
What would be the downside?
A 1.2 million square foot building.
But it'd be placed in IG.
I was just gonna say
It
that,
would
but
be,
it's
but
a
it
place where it
it
should
would
be.
also be a load on utilities and water and electricity and everything else and, you know,
But wouldn't that be addressed with a special permit?
could be.
I mean, 'cause it's already special permitted, so we're gonna have control
It
over
could
all
be.
that when they come in.
But if you put it in writing, there's more control. So we're okay with a 1.2 or 6 million square foot.
When you look at the size of
I
the
was just gonna
parcels in
say that.
IG,
Sure,
it'd be very,
that's-
very, very difficult to fit something.
That's
like
exactly
that.
what I'm looking at, correct.
Okay.
So,
I think earmarks for 45 acres for sale.
Yeah.
You could put a pretty big one on 45 acres.
yeah, but also getting back to that, you also have to remember lot coverage. So you think about a
Maybe
million
BGG
square
will
feet,
consider moving
you're in the
there.
22 acre range, 22, 23 acre range, and you
If
exceed the town
VGG
bylaw.
considered moving there, a lot of problems would go away.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Oh, yeah.
Again, are we gonna have the, all the old school Charlton and all the landowners up there cut this down because they're thinking I have this big industrial lot and I have all my family members out. I just wanna be careful that we're not too restrictive.
No, I agree.
Okay.
Um,
I don't think being restricted to 100,000 square foot or one license per lot would be.
It doesn't appear to hurt any other community.
And it has been done in other communities, so I don't think that's too restrictive. 100,000 square feet is the limit of the license, first of all. And we can just say that you can't co-locate more than that. If you've got 250, licenses, you can co-locate. If you've got, 20,000 square foot licenses, you can co-locate. But to limit the co-location to 100,000 square feet, which is the max license you can get, it's the max license for a reason.
Right, well, the reason was to spread the equity around the state, that was the thought process, to make sure that everybody got their little piece and there wasn't gonna be
Super company coming in, dominating.
taking all the local revenue, that was the,
To get some more manageable size for the communities as well.
And again, under special permit, right, we can now say, there's no way you're putting up 400,000 square feet. We're kind of, we're stuck with what we have because of
Grandfathering.
because
Well,
of the process.
sure.
But
It's an allowed
we can
use.
have, and we have a reasonable board, if they're covering a piece of property every square foot with, we have to think about the town and the master plan of the town. And if it's up there and nobody knows, nobody sees it, it doesn't have a chimney that's gonna let everybody know that we have a giant hot factory.
Well, it could,
Oh, it
there's a
could, but
reason,
we
sure.
could not allow that on,
Correct.
because of the control we have.
This board's not always gonna be this board, and it may change.
I
So
think I'll be here until I die.
If you don't think it's a good thing, then we should put it in writing. If you do think it's okay, then maybe we should.
I mean,
I think it would be a good thing.
I just don't wanna limit when you have to, you assume that the majority of the board is gonna be logical, right? And if they come in with a 200,000 square feet on 45 acres and we're making some decent revenue for the town, I just don't wanna limit the board to being able to bring a good business.
Correct,
that's
that
gonna
makes sense.
bring-
And I also think that 10 years ago, we wouldn't, had you told me 10 years ago we would be sitting here talking about a marijuana facility, I would have called you a liar and a thief. But now we're here, so maybe in 20 years, it'll be the right thing for the town, and that's where that board in 20 years might have a different mindset.
Yep.
And so if you allow a little bit of liquidity in that, I think that every year, every whatever, it allows them to think that way.
It could always be changed to become looser in time too,
Fair enough.
much like, Carl Stewart's land and everything. If people see it's good and they're okay with it, let it expand. I just think
And
it
under
would
the
be
special
good to have
permit,
early
we
controls.
could say that too, so we have so much discretion to say, all right, let's see how it goes with the 100.
Absolutely.
And I said, and we're going to town
Yes.
meeting, and if the majority, and I, that's a reasonable amendment, like, to make to this, say,
Okay.
all right, I wanna limit them to 100,000. I have faith that the residents in town will modify this the way that I always wanna respect our
Absolutely.
voters, always,
Mhm.
even if it's personally not against how I feel, I always wanna represent what they want.
Absolutely.
And I'll get up and I'll present this at town meeting, saying, this is our basic version.
Right.
It would-
And this is gonna be out there to the public before town
This will be out
meeting.
the
So everybody will have a chance to read on
Exactly.
it. Everybody needs to come to town meeting to vote how you're gonna vote.
Right.
What we write here is not
Exactly.
carved in stone. It's for a vote.
And
Yep.
will I get up and vote for 100,000 square feet? I will, absolutely, because I think that's fine. I just wanna make sure that we're not,
Then why not put it in? It could always be striken out too. If
because
the town doesn't want that.
I would rather have the town,
Right.
our
Mhm.
residents restrict it more. That's just how
Okay.
my personal
Because you
feeling.
don't want them to vote no on this whole thing.
I don't
just
want them to
Exactly.
vote, that's
Exactly.
exactly how I
Yes,
feel.
that's, I agree.
And that happens here.
Yes.
It
Because they
happens
see
in this
one
town.
piece that they don't like, and it gets voted down,
So
that's
when
correct.
so then it, like the psychology of it all, it's something that's, and then it can be modified and,
That was on the cultivation.
so what the thought was to limit
That's my point.
the whole size to 100,000 square feet, but it's by special permit.
That's right.
So we have the discretion to say, no, you can have half. Like, we have a lot of, once we're in this, we have a lot of discretion.
Right, well, I mean, we would also be looking at the parcel of land where this is going
True.
versus what they want to
Exactly,
do,
yes.
right?
Okay.
And just how close are the closest
Right.
abutters,
Okay.
and it just gives us a lot more control. And we can restrict as much,
Mhm.
but yeah, if a good opportunity comes up.
Right.
The right
Exactly.
place with the right people, at the right time.
Correct. Hidden away, nobody sees, right.
And the whole town loves it.
Yep, and it brings in a lot of revenue, and everybody's happy.
We have the protest for it, right?
Right.
So that's taken care of. Could we just go back to the, if one company such as, let's use Greengrow, health-wise, that whatever their new name is, okay. Green Go, okay. They have a permit from us for a medical.
Correct.
Correct. Now, if they want to do recreational, they have to come back to us.
That was in the decision.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So one of our two medical dispensing site has already been spoken for and has already been issued. And possibly, now,
Well,
they,
The language says should not issue special permits for more than two.
right,
So Green Gold has a site plan, so that doesn't count as one of the two special permits.
That
They
was
were
the other
grandfathered in.
clarification I was looking for in my discussion with Mr. Scanlon today. If you read the letter of the law you're proposing, it says you shall not issue more than two special permits. But you have not issued any special permits to anyone yet, although Green Gold is authorized to proceed through their host agreement. And although no permits and no site plan has been approved for Valley Green Grout, they do have retail in their host agreement. So when I interviewed Robin Craver today, she told me that she is going by the intent of the planning board rather than the actual language in the law, in that the planning board intends to only have two medical retail and two recreational retail in town, and that the special permit is something that she's just gonna ignore that.
I don't like that. Let's just take out the wording of special permit and shall not approve more than two in general. I don't care about permits. I mean, just over in general.
Okay.
What do you guys think?
Yep. Then we take it out. So, I guess the question is.
Thank you.
The question is, now that, Valley, or Green Gold,
Green Gold.
Green Gold?
Yeah.
Green Gold is in there for medical, and they've been permitted for that. Are they grandfathered at that location for recreational, or would
No.
then they'd be
They
forced to
haven't-
go
they
to
don't
an
have-
industrial zone
they don't
if they
have-
wanted a recreational?
They don't have recreational yet.
So that's what I'm saying, so they
So-
could not do a recreational in that location.
And they have to come back to us for recreational,
Well,
don't
they are grandfathered
For medical.
under the old zoning bylaw, because they had a building permit.
That's true, okay.
So exempt.
Okay.
So, right, so that protected them.
So they're exempt from this zoning, but
But
they're
they're
not
not, but
exempt
they're,
from the
but they're still part of the
permitting.
count. But they're still
Sure.
part of the
They
count.
would count, yes.
Okay.
So let's take out
That's what I
special
wanna make
permit
sure.
right out of the language.
And just put permit,
No,
You
just
wanna say-
approve.
Approve in general,
Just
approve
in
more.
general. Just
Shall not
scratch out the
approve
words.
more than two retail. I mean, recreational retail.
Thank you for the clarification. And I think Ms. Craven will probably thank you, because we were going around and around on that this afternoon.
We don't wanna have anybody ever guess our intent. We really,
I
like,
mean,
to say no.
I think you do have to follow the language of the bylaw, you can't
Correct.
just sort of.
No, you
Right.
can't go by intent,
what the intent
absolutely
was,
not.
I think.
It says
Yeah.
special permit, that's what it meant, special permit, if we take it out,
Right.
now it's,
Good, okay. Do we need to vote on that, or do we all agree?
We can open up to the public first and get some other feedback, and then with that, maybe make more changes and then vote to, send it out. So with that, I'll open up to the public, and just please say your name and your address for the record.
Me?
Sure.
Oh, okay. My name is Sharon Moore, and my address is 74 Gill Road. If you're taking out special permit from the language under 520 B and C, is it still a special permit under, on the chart?
Yes.
That says special, okay. I just want to make a suggestion that, I understand what you're saying about trying to make this something that everybody can swallow. I totally agree with that. You can't just be one side that wins here. But expecting folks at town meeting to think of, hey, can I propose an amendment? It's very hard for people to talk at town meeting anyway. You know, people are very nervous in a crowd. And to expect people to think, well, why don't we just have them limited to 100,000 square feet? That's a good idea. Why don't you stand up and propose it? No one's going to think of it. And if one person does think of it that isn't in this room right now, they may not feel comfortable standing up and proposing it because it's hard to do in public. So I would suggest that you consider anything that you would like to be interpreted in that way. Put it right in here and let people know that they can propose to take things out. Because if it's not in here to see, no one's going to come up with it. out of thin air. Same thing with the restricting, you know, if you're gonna do any other kinds of restrictions, how many cultivation licenses, whoever, you need to be explicit, because people need to see what you're proposing and decide if they don't like something and then propose taking something out, because they've got something in front of them. But with nothing in front of them, who's gonna think, well, what, nobody even is gonna have along the chart that says what the limits are for different kinds of licensing.
Well, we got
It's
the
just
red
not,
line.
but it's not gonna occur to people at the town meeting.
Well, hopefully they've done their homework before town
People
meeting.
never do their homework. I was
Krista,
at
you
the
going to
selectmen's
town
meeting
meeting?
yesterday, and
I'm
the
sorry,
selectmen
are you
didn't
gonna
know
be
this
at
was
town
up on the
meeting, Krista?
website,
I will,
on
but
your website.
I do agree with is it Sharon, did you say?
Sharon.
I agree with Sharon that it's easier to strike something than to try to add it, because then the moderator says, please put it in writing, and you gotta run up there and scribble, and it's just a lot easier to say, like, can you strike item D? We think it's too restrictive. You know, and it's just easier. And that way, they know that you guys all said, you know, this is the best we can come up with. And if you don't like a piece of it, we can certainly, somebody can certainly say, please strike item D or whatever item it is, and then people can vote on striking the thing. And if the strike fails, then you end up voting on what you've proposed entirely, and people don't have to go up there and scribble and try to pretend to know what they're doing.
Well, really, that's the reason of this meeting here tonight.
Right.
Is to get your input,
Opinion, yeah.
okay,
So-
and to hash these things out now. And if somebody can't take, and I'm not preaching or anything, but if you really have strong feelings about this, I would have thought you would have showed up here.
So, remember how we used to have,
Selectmen said last night.
the establishments need to be 1,000 feet from each other, and then it said a waiver can be issued at the planning board's discretion. What if we put in 100,000 and we add that line item that now the planning board can issue a waiver?
So
if they
basically to go the other direction.
to go in the other direction if we feel, but it already sets the limit for the
Right,
the people who are
size.
proposing the plan and the engineers and everything else, and they could come at their pre-planning meeting or whatever and say, we really wanna do 180, it's 50 acres. We could say, it makes sense, we're gonna get more revenue, it's in the middle of nowhere. Like, what do we think about that, like restricting it but adding that point, like we had before, a waiver can be issued or by.
Yeah, waivers can be very problematic for the board who has to evaluate whether the waiver is in public interest. Put you under the gun, a lot of pressure to grant the waiver. Might be difficult for you to deal with.
I mean, if we legally we can do it. It sets a basic restriction, and we can case by case decide if we want to give a waiver. And if somebody wants to get up and speak against it at town meeting and say, we don't like that restriction, and you can say, well, if you have 5 reasonable people on a board sitting here, and if you show us a reasonable plan, if you're telling us, you know, we have 40 acres here, we wanna do 130,000, and the CCC is gonna let us do over 100,000, do we, I mean, I think we can have 5 reasonable people on board that can say, yeah, that makes sense, it's a huge piece of lot, there's no abutters there, we won't even know they exist, let them have the extra 30,000 feet if they're in the middle
What
of.
section is that? Is it in here?
No, I'm just saying, we could add, we could.
It's section I that I think Patty's reading off with the 1,000 feet.
So we used, that 1,000 feet used to say 1,000 feet, but with the waiver of the planning board, we could lessen whatever, but we have the old wording, and we could just add that we wanna limit to 100,000, and a waiver is available. We had the old wording, I remember it in there, Bill, like the old wording, whatever we had, cause it said, something about possible waiver at the planning board's discretion
Okay.
or whatever.
Yeah, I can look for that.
I had like 20 versions, I'm sure I have it written somewhere.
This is the motion.
Remember it said, waiver can be- unless a special permit has been granted to allow co-location, so,
Somebody carried, okay, before it was somebody carrying out, it's all right.
Yeah.
So we
Still
get-
1,000 feet.
so we still have it 1,000
That's a
feet,
minimum.
but we took away the waiver piece, so to not allow.
Now, what about the mass regulation change that the CCC did with larger than 100,000 square feet?
So, that's absolutely under question.
Oh, it is?
Because,
Okay.
so they finally kind of put it out there that said 100,000 square
Yeah.
feet is all you're getting, because I actually called and
Per
said.
license.
Per
It's
per
still
license.
considered per
And-
license.
And they could not grant multiple licenses. Right, so they could, you could go and apply and say, I wanna build 1,000,000 square feet, and they could say, you're not getting 10, we're gonna give you 2.
Well, sure, but you can build 1,000,000 square feet and rent out space to somebody else that has a license. So I can build a greenhouse, and then I can find a person with a license and say, I've got a greenhouse for you to use, it's your license, you'll be my tenant in this greenhouse, which is exactly what BGG plans on.
Right, that's exactly it.
So, I mean, if we limit that to 100,000 square feet of grow space, period, you can take 2 50,000 square foot licenses and co-locate it. You could take 5 20,000 square foot licenses and co-locate it. What's the difference between doing that and taking 5, 6, 10, 100,000 square feet licenses and co-locating it? So if limiting it would provide us some protection. Once again, if you want to put the words that it could be waived by the planning board,
I'm fine.
I'm okay with that too.
With the wording of the waiver, I mean, again, we're all thinking, of BGG. Every time we think about this, and we do,
It's a point of
whether I'm
reference.
supposed to be saying
Sure.
that, we do.
I don't think
So-
we ever expected to have that when we put the original regs together.
Right.
We thought 100,000 square foot was
Certain
it.
people knew,
We didn't
know,
expect
you know.
that, so.
But now it's under special permit, so we can say that monstrosity is not going there. Like, we'll clearly be able to deny without any legal appeals.
If CCC changes their laws, their regulations, ours has to fall in line with those?
No, the town has zoning control, land use control over these facilities.
What if the CCC decides that they want to issue licenses for 250,000?
We could still,
Yes, you don't have to go to the maximum that they allow.
Okay.
Then why can't we do 50,000 and say, well,
We
we'll
could,
do
and
400,000?
that's just it.
No,
It's-
I'm just like,
it's- we
again,
could do that.
again, how restrictive are we gonna be? We just
and
need
some
to-
towns have done that, restricting licenses to certain square footage, below
Let's-
what is allowed.
Let's get some more comments from the public and let's all think on
this subject and see if anybody has a comment on
Yeah,
this
we,
subject.
let's,
Does anybody have a comment on?
help us decide here.
I stood because I was waving. Just to chime in.
Name?
My name is Noreen Johnson-Smith. I live at 136 Dresser Hill Road. Thanks. I think it's entirely reasonable and completely within your purview to restrict the size of any cultivation and or retail space. Towns have done far more to make McDonald's put up a certain type of sign and to have a certain size building and to restrict the height of buildings. The fact that we would think that it's reasonable to have reasonable sized businesses in a town like ours to maintain a certain character is entirely why we have a planning board. So I would hope that you would restrict the size using, if you must, the 100,000 square foot, which is an enormous space, per permit. And I would suggest that you not put in a waiver clause, because then you introduce an opportunity to have changes to what you've just proposed, and in which case, why bother? So I would say not to put in the waiver, leave it at 100,000 if that's, because that's consistent with currently what the state has recommended. And then it's a non-controversial size statement, but it at least imposes clarity about what the expectation is in the town. The other thing I would add is, you stated the intention of the limit was to spread around all the goodness that's gonna come out of this wonderful new industry in the state. And I actually completely disagree with why they did that. I think they did the restriction so that towns would not be overrun with a Walmart-sized facility. And unfortunately, we're stuck kind of behind the 8 ball on some of the recommendations, both at the local and the state level, relative to VGG's proposed site. In terms of revenue to town, I think it's really important to remember that just this month, the Cannabis Control Commission issued guidance to the Mass Municipal Association and spoke to the fees that towns are charging these growers and businesses who come into town under the community impact fee allowance for the first 5 years that the business is in the community. That community impact fee has to have a line item budget with it. So what that is in essence is we need more police, we need more fire, we need more this, we need new roads, we need new sewer, we need new water. This is what it's gonna cost. And the town, instead of having to bear that burden, is going to collect that fee from this business, but only for the first 5 years that they're here, after which we, the taxpayers, absorb all of those costs to maintain a larger police force, to maintain a larger fire, to deal with whatever else people build in this town. That is not revenue to the town. That's actually growing our budget without the taxpayers' consent. So those host agreements should be public and should be discussed because they have actual budget implications that we have to pay for.
And we know exactly,
So it's not revenue to the town.
whether they're taxed at an agricultural rate, paying barely no taxes, as currently the situation.
Correct, right.
Or not, which is still in question at the state level, we might come back and get, but we solved that problem by keeping them in industrial, so they'll be taxed at an industrial rate.
And I'm just clarifying that it's not revenue to the town, it's forced growth, and we're gonna have to maintain it. So any restrictions you have on size to make it better for the taxpayer in the end to not have to maintain services for large facilities would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Hi, Kent Howard, 181 Worcester Road. I had another question, but I agree with her on another good example, even though we're not talking about it right now, is that LNG gas plant that's gonna go in down Route 20. Now, I thought somebody said at one of the meetings for that if there ever was a fire there, they would need some kind of foam suppression trucks or whatever to put the fire out. Charlton doesn't have that. Nobody around here has that other than an airport. So in a case like that, who would buy that equipment and train the firemen to use it? You know, would it fall on us, or would there something be in writing that says, hey, if that's what we need, then that gas company is gonna pay for that truck and the foam stuff that they need to put out the fire? I imagine it's pretty expensive, and something like that would fall on all of us.
Out of our purview for.
I don't
Yeah,
wanna
I was
talk
gonna say,
about
be
that.
up
that's
to
the Board of
That would be
Selectmen.
the selectmen and even the fire, they get input from the.
A gentleman asked that last night at the Board of Selectmen. He asked for the line item impact fees for VGG, and there was crickets. They had there was no information to be given. Then another person got up and asked about the revenue estimate, and again, there was crickets. So, I mean, three of the five are hugely in favor of the project, and yet they can give us no monetary financial information to show that it's a net positive to the town.
You have another point?
My other thing was, I know it's a dumb question, but I know we can't do it like with limiting some place like McDonald's to the days they work, but for all these places, I see stuff in here about hours of operation at night, but, you know, weekends, Christmas, Thanksgiving, I'm on Worcester Road. Am I gonna have 300 employees for VGG bombing up and down my street, Christmas Day, Thanksgiving Day, any other holiday during the year?
Well, they gotta run the plant.
Yeah, they have to.
The marijuana isn't gonna stop growing on Christmas, they're gonna have to have people work there. I don't think we can control that.
So we have to keep the discussion on the bylaw tonight. We will have plenty, probably for the next year, we'll be having VGG meetings, and you're welcome to come and ask
Well, I
tons of
mean,
questions.
even for other places, as far as,
So there are.
I guess if it's an industrial, it wouldn't matter.
Exactly, so, and retail is limited to, actually, we do have part of this says, between hours of 8 PM and 8 AM. Shall be neither open to the public, nor shall any sale or distribution of marijuana, but it doesn't say they can't work or you can't say.
They need to have security on staff
But
24
yeah,
hours.
so they can't have any retail operations between 8 PM and 8 AM, so.
But now if you're talking
yeah, if it's an
cultivation,
industrial,
that's
they would have to work,
Completely different.
yeah, you couldn't
You
limit
got
that.
a farm around the clock.
Yeah.
In a while.
And once again, if it's in an industrial zone,
Okay.
you pick-
And then
That's the
Which
right
is
way.
one thing.
And that's what we're trying to be very careful
Right.
not to see, BGG is its own, it's truly its own monster, so
Yes.
let that,
Right.
we can't,
Correct. We can't do that.
we've, the big issue, in industrial and having and again, special permit,
when you talk about the permits and stuff, just out of curiosity, where does that leave the fourscore? As far as if VGG has permits and Gold Green Healthwise has permits.
whoever gets them first. I mean, that's actually outside, but it's whoever gets them first, so it's 2 total, 2 retail,
But you said it's not
2
permit.
And we're not
medical.
gonna call it permits anymore.
Not permits anymore,
It's
so
not permits
establishments, so
Take
it's
that out.
whoever signs host agreements and gets their,
That's for retail, though, or retail,
Retail.
medical
So-
retail or
right,
adult
so for
use retail.
cultivation, there is no
Cultivation,
limits
there's no
on
limit.
cultivation. And, I mean, I guess the perfect,
And Fourscore is underneath the previous zoning, so they're permitted in an industrial park and they do not count towards.
No, they are not.
Well, they're not, sorry, they're on,
They're in the industrial
They're in the
district.
industrial
they're
park.
industrial district.
so Foursquare, yeah, it is industrial.
It is an industrial district, so they're,
Right.
so
Is
And they're
either way they go.
proposing
Sorry.
retail mode.
Is Fourscore grandfathered from what potentially may happen October 15th? Have they filed their application or did?
What was the question?
Fourscore.
limit?
Are they grandfathered?
Last we spoke, Fourscore was grandfathered from what potentially could happen in zoning changes at town meeting. But since then, I noticed that you turned them away from your last meeting because they didn't have a signed host agreement yet. But are they frozen in their zoning right now? Have they made a preliminary application to the planning board?
I believe they intend to come in with an approval not required plan,
The,
which would
the
give them
time limit is
protection for a
actually up
3-year
for
period.
Foursquare, so the time meeting before the town meeting is, you have to propose, you have to bring in, I actually have the law right in front of me. You have to bring in, the deadline for all plans submittals is Wednesday prior to the next scheduled planning board meeting. Today is the Wednesday prior to the next planning board meeting, which is October
Third.
3rd. The town meeting is October 15th, and therefore October 17th is our next meeting after that. So they will not, it had to have been in today before closing hours to have been grandfathered in, so they are not grandfathered in.
But
Don't
they've,
you have their application
they've already
in
submitted
hand?
a preliminary plan for,
Because
have they,
before-
they have not submitted
No,
any?
we never opened any hearing or
Okay.
anything.
Okay,
No.
but Bill said
They don't have a host
something.
agreement.
Bill, you said something
Well,
about.
they were proposing to submit an approval not required plan, which is another type of plan to gain protection from what.
Proposing.
However,
But what the chairman just said.
however, we have a strict guideline, that's just our written policy that says that the deadline for all plan submittals, no matter what they, to be on the next meeting,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we have to advertise
I
and everything,
understand.
has to be, the Wednesday prior, and today is the Wednesday prior, and they just didn't get it in on time, so
So did I
that.
get that information that Foursquare's plan has already gone through peer review by your engineer?
No,
No,
So
and we
that
have,
is bad information?
it's not.
It has not.
we haven't opened the public hearing again because, it doesn't make any sense to waste anybody's time if we don't have a signed host agreement. We don't know what the selectmen are gonna do, so, we didn't open their public hearing and they missed the,
Yeah.
the deadline for today. So
But
Under
they
when-
will-
section E of the bylaw, says the applicant shall negotiate a host agreement
Yes.
and impact fees with the board of selectmen prior to applying for special permit.
When Attorney Glissman protested, being turned away because of that exact bylaw, that clause, at your last planning board meeting, they did talk about the fact that they had already gone through peer review and had already told me they had already wrote the check to pay for peer review on their plan. So I just wanna be certain, if that information is inaccurate, I wanna be certain that I don't include it.
Well, they
in-
did file and pay their peer review fee. We haven't received a peer review report yet.
But is it out with an engineer right now?
It was sent to Graves, right? I don't know how
We
far along
didn't, we didn't open their public hearing because, the board decided not to waste our time hearing anything without
Oh, I agree.
because the first step by law, with this is that host agreement,
But I'm
if that, if.
still confused. So BGG puts in an application and they, they haven't exactly had their public hearing yet either.
And they didn't have a signed host agreement either, I don't think, when we saw them
Not
first.
signed, approved, but not signed.
Correct.
So I'm still confused on Foursquare, I'm sorry to keep.
So we're following all of
I'm concerned, I
the-
don't wanna mess this up in a story, is the bottom line.
So-
Foursquare has a plan in your possession that has gone out to your engineer for peer review. They have put into escrow or given their payment to ensure that they cover the expenses of your engineering peer review. So if they have not made application, how is it that your engineer has something to review? I'm
Well,
confused.
Bill, can you explain what freezes zoning?
Well, no, it's a different question, I think, but.
But no, I think that they were, from what Debbie's saying, from what the information that she got from their attorney,
Correct.
they decide of the fact that they submitted a plan that is under review by our peer review engineer.
Right.
Does that lock in zoning, yes or no?
They don't have the host agreement.
So this,
But that doesn't matter.
That's for you to hear
It's all
them
about
or
locking
go
this
to
new
the-
zoning won't affect them anyways, because they're under the last plan that was voted in May, which allows them right of use in that location. This zoning
It does.
also allows them right of use in that
I'm
location,
sorry,
so.
but it
doesn't.
does in the sense that they want to do retail, but they were told they can't because there's only 2 slots and those 2 slots have already been filled. But if one of the other 2 fall through,
Wait, sorry.
they're going to want to do retail and this is.
Yeah, it was good. It's all
The,
special permit.
it is an industrial zone where they are.
Yes.
So this is, retail is a permitted use in an industrial zone, so
Yes,
that's
so the
fine.
zoning won't affect them based
Okay.
upon this
Right.
new
I'm
proposal.
clear,
Either way.
Yeah, so whether they're
I'm clear
grandfathered
enough to
in-
know that I
Clear
should
enough.
stay really, really clear of being specific about that in my
We
stories.
should all say
Grandfather, so we wanna follow all the rules, and we are not going to hear anything unless we have a signed host agreement in front of us when we open that hearing, to make sure it, with everybody's signatures verified and everything, that we're clear. And once we get that, we'll open a hearing and do what we need to do. We learned from our mistakes, I can tell you that much, so we wanna make sure we do everything right. Whether they get grandfathered or not, they're allowed, because even with the change, they have a plan that's really just in line what we would want in our community. So I think that,
Maybe we should get back to the
Thank you.
focus
Yeah,
of the meeting.
absolutely.
Thank you for indulging me.
Excuse my confusion too. My understanding was that the whole thing with Valley Greenboro kind of started when they filed a subdivision plan. That got them the grandfathering for zoning, right? So can anyone come and see you folks before, hopefully, this amendment will pass at town meeting? Can another entity come in here and see you folks and file a subdivision plan and get grandfathered out of this?
if they make an appointment,
Well, now that the warrant has been filed and we've put a publication in the newspaper, doesn't that stop all that process? Or now that they see the zoning's gonna change,
They can file a subdivision plan up to town meeting.
up to town meeting?
Yes.
but they would need to make an appointment and sit with Bill and one of us.
Is it possible to just not make appointments until town meeting? Because there is there's Breathe Free that wants to build the place off of Versatile Road.
They withdrew.
They withdrew.
Oh, they withdrew. I did not know that.
That's what I read, right?
That's what they said last night, I don't know.
God bless America, really?
Okay.
That's what they-
That's
that's-
what
We
I
all
know.
look for Debbie.
This is what I know.
Was it Debbie that said it? You said it, right?
Did I say it?
No, it was the selectmen.
I
You
didn't-
reported
I
it.
didn't
Debbie
hear that.
Noble.
I
Debbie
didn't
Noble said
report
it.
it, I held it out because Selectmen announced, last night that Breathe Free has withdrawn their, application to negotiate a host agreement. However, I heard today that they are speaking with a property owner in Charlton on perhaps moving their project to another site within Charlton, so I'm not comfortable saying that it's dead.
Right.
So I left it out of the story.
So I guess my question is, if
We
another
accept
applicant like
plans by
that,
appointment only, and one of us is present during the appointment, so if they can come up with a time where Bill and one of us will be here, then we will take an application.
and then that will be, then they're
And they,
exempt.
and then they would be under, they would fall under the previous.
Which would be the May.
previous is
Is
the
there
one
any-
that
The
just
one
got
that was in
approved.
May, which means anything that comes in is still under special permit, no matter where they wanna go.
There's
So
no
then we
legal way
could-
to
then
stop
we could
everything
deny-
until after
we
the
could-
town meeting?
We could, so if it came in now, we could stop anything we wanted to stop. If we didn't want it there, if we felt that it would not be good for our
Because it's all
community,
special
because it's
permit.
all special permit, we could just stop it. Without, with a reasonable, that it shouldn't be next to houses, shouldn't be next to a residence, whatever.
May I speak on this item?
Please.
No,
Name and address.
I'll be honest with everybody. I'm Roger Cloutier. I live at 17 Colburn Road, Charlton, Mass. And I'm not near VGG or anything. Just as a personal point of view, you know, I don't know if VGG is good for the town or bad for the town. I really don't. You know, I don't know if anybody really knows that, to be honest. All right. And the other thing is, as far as marijuana, I guess if it's legal and people want to use it, who am I to? I'm more of a libertarian. It doesn't affect me. As long as they don't drive across my front lawn and hit me with a car or something, I have no problem with it. However, at the town meeting, I have an intention to amend this because I have, my major concern with this is that we have a zoning bylaw that allows marijuana, a non-medical, well, recreational and non-medical marijuana, or medical marijuana and recreational, I'm sorry. And we have a potential vote with a general bylaw that'll ban it. This is gonna create a legal nightmare for the town. I mean, you know, even if the land court rules in favor of the zoning bylaws overriding, you know, it's gonna be in litigation for years. So this is a mess. And so, you know, the selectmen say do no harm. I'm really worried we're gonna do harm. I mean, we keep pushing it off. Not we, but I mean, the town kind of pushes off the vote. So I guess my opinion on this is I plan on item 5, number 1, change SP to no. Number 2, SP to no. Number 3, SP to no. Number 4, SP to no. And then leave the rest alone, of course, because it's medical and transport is needed for the medical. Again, my intention is not about VGG or about marijuana. My intention is I'm really concerned about this legal hole that we keep digging ourselves into as a town. And please, I'm not picking on anybody, not the selectmen, not anybody. And I guess my question to you folks is some lawyer gonna come up and say that to the town, because I believe the voters should vote. That they need to, they're gonna pay the consequences. You know, if VGG is good for the town, earns a lot of money, they're gonna benefit. If it's bad, as you had said, they're gonna have to pay. So I think they should have a right to vote. And I've been begging the Board of Selectmen just to let people vote.
Believe us, we all want a ballot vote too,
I
because it would
agree.
make
Yeah.
life so much
Yes.
easier
Yep.
for this board. if we
Yeah,
had
but
a
I guess my
vote.
question to the board is, and I don't know if you can answer that, will some lawyer come up and say, well, you can't do that? Because I just think that if you
Can't do
have a
both.
bylaw that bans non-medical marijuana, and you have a general bylaw that bans them, then you no longer have this conflict. Because what we're creating is a conflict that the courts are gonna have to sort out.
So would
That's my concern.
Would wordage in this zoning bylaw that says if the town votes in a general bylaw banning it, then this whole amendment is null and void? Would language
What is
in
the
this
order?
amendment
Could you do that?
solve that problem?
ban
That
that
would-
they're-
See
I
the
don't,
ban
so
first,
I
if
don't
it fails, then
get
you
about, I don't get
They said you can't do that.
Oh, I
So
don't
it's
know.
about the order of things at the meeting. So it seems, if the ban was voted on first, then it could all be fixed. So-
That's right.
But we don't know anything about the ban. So the ban has nothing to do with us. It's not even coming through us. We have no clue what that is. Is anybody really?
So could we go touch on that point? So, last night at the Board of Selectmen meeting, they specifically left a space on the warrant for the planning board to propose a ban. so that it could be voted on.
But you know what's fabulous about that is that we don't know, we don't know anything
No.
about that. So,
that's
and to top it all off, we can't even have a public hearing and vote on it because we would have needed to advertise that
Correct.
2 weeks ago, 10 days ago, or whatever, so.
So I'm
It
not, so my
sounds-
question, I guess, to clarify, because it was very unclear last night, and we were all surprised, and Bill Borowski very nicely clarified and made the selectmen address something that they had said in a prior meeting in a commitment to putting that on the town warrant from the planning board. So my question is, if this gentleman's suggested amendment of putting no's under the adult recreational is part of the proposal,
See, I don't know, I had asked you before the meeting, can you put because I'm like you, part A is you try to do a ban. If it fails, then this is plan
Well,
B. It makes
what
You
perfect
need to
sense.
clarify some of that, so.
Yeah.
But I
in
don't
order-
think you can, you said, right?
In order to ban it, you need a two-step process. You need the bylaw and you need the ballot vote.
And
That's
I
right.
really
So
know
you
that
cannot
now.
enact
But
a
the
ban
bylaw
until
already
the
has been
ballot
voted
vote
on,
goes
so
forward
I don't-
at the
I don't-
annual town meeting in May. So you could do a zoning bylaw as a companion article at that town meeting. But if you were to adopt a zoning bylaw before the ballot vote, it wouldn't take effect until the ballot vote happens.
The other way to do that is just what Mr. Cloutier said, is to change everything to no with the exception of retail and medical marijuana. That would
Yeah, transport,
effectively
medical.
ban anything else in the town.
And-
You could even change, well, you can't change retail because you need,
And bear in mind that
Exactly.
BGG's grandfathered
Yeah,
in,
yeah,
and some of these other
but-
companies,
Well,
they're already
but
grandfathered in.
if the town wanted to do
so-
that, then the town has the right to do that, but that's the only way that that could happen.
But you don't have that
We-
conflict then.
But I wouldn't
we're
support it
the-
here.
We're the planning board, and our job is to represent all the people that voted for us.
That's right.
And I believe, again, we all try to keep our personal opinions out of how we
Mhm.
vote. That, and I get information from, if you can believe, I get like 50
Yeah.
emails a day, if you can possibly
I
believe.
do.
Especially on this subject. If there are people that want the recreational,
Yes,
and they want it controlled.
yes.
And so our job is to bring forth a zoning bylaw
Yes.
that represents kind of all the pieces. And then we bring it to town meeting, and then the majority and all the people who really care about the subject, they all know that it's gonna happen, let them. If more people are saying, we want no recreational, get it all out of here, then do it. I just don't think it's, as a planning board, it makes sense for the industrial zone, the property owners. There are small
Exactly.
places that do it right.
Yes.
I don't,
And
if
we can
there's-
make sure they do it right.
there could be
within this
dead
board.
properties up there
That's
that
right.
really, nothing happens there. And if we can bring a small
Absolutely.
establishment, whether you're, you're for it personally or
Doesn't matter.
or not, I don't wanna close
No.
those landowners, owners up
Correct.
in industrial, that opportunity.
And if we were going to work on a ban, we wouldn't spend so much time crafting this zoning bylaw. We would have just put a ban for it. This, I think, represents, as I've said, both sides quite nicely, and I personally would not support a ban. I think that limiting it, in a good way, where we're putting it in industrial, special permit, so that way we talk about it, we can look at it, every project comes before us. I think that's a very, very, very fair way to do it, as opposed to just saying not at all. But if the town voters vote for the ban, then I am but one person in the town.
And if the town, and if it doesn't all agree, and it opens up to appeals for years and years
That's what I'm
and
saying.
years,
This could go on for 10 years.
To be perfectly honest, that
Good.
wasn't something that we created.
That's correct.
This was a big mess that was created not by us.
Correct.
And
Agreed.
if there's millions of dollars of legal fees, that's not on us.
That's correct.
That's on somebody else. So we're just trying to look at the
As a
planning
resident in
process.
town, I'm just trying to get both boards to see this as a legal nightmare for which it should be addressed as soon as possible as opposed.
We see it as, but you saw that the planning board, the selectmen last night, they
No.
left
I
a
was
hole
there.
for us, for us to put something in, when we already have a spot for
Exactly.
this. And the
See,
only reason I even know about it is because I listened to that meeting on the way to work this morning in my car.
And see-
So,
But we got a little bit of this. They're saying it's your job
Yeah.
to do that, and you're saying it's their job to
right,
do
because the
that.
majority of their board they want this to happen. This is just how it goes. I don't know what to say. We can't talk about a ban
No,
because we
but-
don't have it on our agenda.
But
So we
I
can't-
just wanted to give,
I-
somehow the voters should have a right to go A or B. That's
And
my
they can-
opinion.
And they can have that right.
Yeah, of course.
Personally, I think with the couple of exceptions, this document sufficiently
Yes.
protects the town from.
The special permit
what could
piece
be-
really
that
does.
helps.
Even though the last one wasn't exactly probably it clearly wasn't what we
But if a ban goes into effect, a general bylaw ban that conflicts with the zoning ban, allowable, goes into effect, we're gonna have this legal conflict. That's all I'm trying to,
And
and I think, in my humble opinion, I told you, I don't care about BGG, because I live on Coleman Road. I don't care about the marijuana, because, hey, people have a right to it if they want, that's none of my business. All right, what I care about is the liability that we as a town keep acquiring because we got this conflict. Because the anti-VGG people aren't going away, I don't think.
And we appreciate that. The only problem is, we would have to advertise that we were discussing the ban. So
Okay.
we can't discuss the ban, not because.
But it wouldn't be a ban, it would be just changing those that no.
That's not accommodating the people in town. I mean, I've left
Yeah.
meetings, the 12,000 meetings we've all been
I know.
to. And you hear clusters of people, oh, man, I just want to get them out of here. And you hear other people saying,
Correct.
Oh,
bring
no.
it on.
Yeah.
They're all for it.
Yeah.
And their
And
view
they have
is
as
as
much
valid
right.
as my view.
That's right.
Absolutely.
They have as
So if
much
you say
right.
no to all these things, and you say, no,
Well,
we want you people to vote on just nothing in town, then what you're saying to the other side of the fence
No,
is
is what I'm saying then
they don't
is,
count.
All right, we don't wanna have, we don't need
This
to.
guy
let's-
should stand
let's-
there.
yes,
Gentlemen,
let's-
yeah.
Yes,
All-
thank you.
I just
Thank
want, you never
Thank
did answer my question though. Would it be legal for me to make that amendment? In
Yes.
other words, you leave it this way, but I could make that
You could stand
amendment.
out and ask for it.
As
yeah.
long
then
as the moderator,
people could vote yes
as
or
long as the
no.
moderator doesn't shut you down, and I don't believe because it directly relates, you
But
could
bring it
just-
in
yeah.
writing,
Correct.
Or else they won't take it.
yeah.
You could just bring a copy and.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Again, I think every John Smith, Dressel Hill Road, it's a hard issue and everybody's trying to grapple with it. We all have our opinions, but to Patricia, you harken back to vote, everybody has a vote, we're gonna bring it to town, the town has either a warrant or a referendum to vote. However, there's been a petition passed around for rescinding and for limiting it. And we did have a vote in the special town meeting to put it on the ballot referendum. But the Board of Selectmen, and last night, Mr. McGrath stated that, well, we're leaving it up to the hands of the land court to decide what's going to happen. And if the land court decides one way, he's not going to approve, because they have the last say to approve the vote. And if the land court says, well, that's it, then that's it, so we don't have to vote. So I think the process here, that's not the intent of what we're here as townspeople to, go to town's meeting, vote for what we believe should be appropriated for our expenditures and that in the future, which we don't know what's going to be in the future after 5 years, to have it manipulated in such a way that for whatever purposes, it could be one thing one year, it could be another thing the other year. So the whole process is fraught.
So the only thing that we're really
Okay,
here.
I just wanted to,
Oh, no,
I
no,
wanted to say my words to you
Oh,
when
no.
you have your faith on bringing it to the people and they're gonna do it. It doesn't really happen that way. So, that's it,
And I
that's
know-
all I'm gonna say about that.
I know there's the gate, when you vote for this, this will go into effect. And if there's lawsuits or anything else,
Yep.
the lawsuits happen, but this is still in effect. This will be the zoning, and whatever the questions are, they will be there, but this will be our approved.
I know you're gonna have to stand up and present on this at the town meeting, or you might be called to say that, but then you might get, if there, obviously there seems to be a lack of communication of what's happening. One hand's doing one thing, you might get lambasted or blindsided, like, oh, I didn't know that was gonna happen. And it could be ugly.
You already got this.
The town could shut this down. There could be a motion and you could completely, no everywhere, no across the board. The only thing you can have is the 2 medical and that's it. Then that's.
Then the town has spoken.
It's like I said, I wish there was a ballot vote
Mhm.
in
As there should
November
be, but there's
because
not.
it would make our life much
It'd make everybody,
easier. But
I could be watching a ball game right now.
We-
You know, it would be
we have-
crazy.
Well, and the thing, and the problem also is that, as we mentioned before, this is a developing rule. This is
Yep.
new
Oh,
to
of
all
course,
of us.
of
There's
course,
no
of
precedent
course.
set. So that's why they say, well, let it go to land court, because let the courts decide. Because we are but people who are not the experts in cannabis, although we're becoming far better at it. And we are all learning. I mean, we're all townspeople, we all live in town, we all have to deal with these projects. Whether you love pot or hate pot, it's still a developing law, just like anything else. And so
It's
everyone's trying to
evolving, yes,
interpret it,
and we're trying to-
absolutely.
And we're trying to, obviously it's here, we're
Right.
trying to get a
Absolutely.
That brings me to my next question. Gentleman in the blue shirt, what is your name?
Dawn.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
Don?
Yes.
Don has a great point, and it's like, what's the collateral business? I'm gonna go down and buy milk at Sonny's, I'm gonna have a head shop right next door, you know? I think that's what he was kind of alluding to. You're not gonna buy, there's not gonna be the stuff at CVS or any reputable
Right.
retail. There's gonna be small individual head shops for no better, if you understand what's going on. And it's gonna, how will that industry be regulated in the town?
Do you think that we should have that,
There should
we
be
decided
something a
would be-
little tighter
It would
than
be
that.
hard to, kind of oversee and regulate,
Mhm.
those, but I think certainly at town meeting, that could be brought up. I just think it's,
I think you're opening a can of worms at that point, and I think, like, CVS decided not to sell cigarettes because it was bad for their image. I don't think CVS is gonna start putting bongs on their shelves either. I mean,
They
but
don't
it's
sell
gonna be
vaping
the,
because
it's gonna
that's
be the
not right.
small, it's gonna be the small retailers
Yeah,
that are
it's
gonna make a
gonna
little
be
bit of money.
somebody-
And personally, I have too many kids, so do I want my kids to go in there and ask, what is this, Mom? What- I mean, I don't want that, and so I'm looking at this not as a mom, and I'm looking at this as
But somebody has
As
to represent the moms
on-
and the kids. I mean,
on the planning board.
I don't know if there's any way legal to.
that's what I mean.
So what happens when Charlton Market, develops
There's a
and
whole entire
has
section
half their
of
section of
glass
drug paraphernalia?
bombs that,
Yeah, well, half the store. It could happen.
Is that stuff regulated by law?
Well, that's what I mean, though,
That's-
because
it's-
they
well-
could have smoking papers for tobacco, and I don't know.
And I'm
if
sure
they
they
do.
have that there now.
I mean, so why would
The
you
water
want to
pipes are
regulate
for
that?
tobacco too, I suppose.
so there is a definition for paraphernalia, right? For, use.
There is.
Accessories, right?
Accessories.
That's what I
And
was
the
questioning.
CCC document that they put out just
Yeah, Kristen was
recently.
referencing something about that.
So they
and
have,
stuff.
so they have a definition. Is this something that the majority of the board feels?
If we put it in there and it's not enforceable, then it's not enforceable,
and-
but at least
exactly.
it's in there.
But does it kind of give the local shops the warning, is that, the little markets, the warning that,
That they can do that?
To not do it, right, to not do it.
Yes,
At least the warning to
exactly,
not,
yes,
to not do it.
yes.
And I'm sure we're not gonna send our police officers down to remove it from the store. But
Unenforceable law.
at least it's on the books, so when the normal citizen walks in to Charlton Market and they see their sale on, pipes and
They know they're angering the town
They
and the
know,
board.
the residents know, I mean, I don't know.
It's a tough
I
one.
don't like to do things that don't result in anything, but is that something that the majority, well, let's talk about it, and it's something, at the end we'll vote, and we'll see what the majority of the board, let's just kinda.
Okay, well, one thing, this is, although it's our bylaw, you have to consider it like a living document.
Correct.
It's not carved in stone. You can make changes to it as certain things evolve, and also to bring it in line with maybe state regulations.
Yes.
Right now, we can, and I'm totally confused too, because it seems like it's changing every day, every other day, every 2 weeks. A new section came out,
Yes.
something else came out.
Yes.
And this all affects our job here, but we can only try to do what we know right now. If something comes out that is totally not consistent with our bylaw, then I guess we're gonna have to change the bylaw. But that's something, and I don't mean to do this, but that's something that will have to be addressed at a later date.
Right.
We can't foresee what somebody's gonna do 2 days from now.
Agreed.
Maybe we could on that, but
Right,
this
right.
may change even before it gets to the town meeting.
Yeah.
So we can only do what we think we,
This won't change after we vote on it tonight.
no, it won't, but there could be some things.
Right, the CCC could change something
Right.
completely that will then have to make this changed at town meeting.
I do have one question though, and everybody keeps saying about putting it out to the vote. At the, I think it was the August 1st meeting, the special meeting, wasn't there a vote then to put a ban in effect?
General bylaw.
The
General
majority,
bylaw,
the
okay.
majority voted to ban recreational marijuana.
Okay, and that's going to go to a vote in May?
Maybe,
Maybe.
it's a protested in land court, so BGG
That's what they're
is
protesting.
taking that to land court,
Yeah,
saying that we
exactly.
already have zoning in place, so therefore you can't
Right.
use a general bylaw to
And the
Basically,
Board
you
of
can't
Selectmen-
undo something
That's
that
what
you've
I
already
want to
done.
get, what trumps what?
The board.
So the general bylaw is supposed to trump, but it's in land court. The general
Well, that's
law,
what we'll find out.
Okay.
so the
We
judge,
don't know.
the
To be
judge will,
continued.
the judge will rule on whether that is legal or not.
Okay.
And so.
Gene, that was my point, was we're in legal limbo because we have conflicting laws.
Right, but that doesn't, we should still proceed ahead. We shouldn't
Yes.
just stop what we're doing.
Well,
We
it-
should do some,
Yes.
You are right.
you shouldn't do something just for the sake of doing something, but you should do something,
My point is
even-
to give the voters an option.
Right.
yeah.
If you change these SBs to no on the top part of this chart, then people can vote it down or not. And if they vote it down, then this goes through as written and not changed.
Typically,
But I don't know if that's
But
legal.
we could do the same thing in reverse.
in the opposite
They
direction.
can change it,
In any way they want.
They can
And
change it any way they
And I
want.
get the point
Right.
that says it's easier to not change, but if you've, I mean, you've been to town meetings.
Yep.
We have a lot of speakers at our town meeting.
Yep.
There's a lot,
And
there's
there'll be a lot
lines.
for this
So,
subject.
So they'll be making it as they go. We'll continue the discussion, and then at the end, we'll
Look at
discuss a
each
little
one of
more.
these
If-
ideas.
We'll actually vote on it, the board, on whether we wanna say the 100,000, with a waiver, without a waiver, and then we'll also look at the accessory to add on. And then we'll take it down to vote at the end, so, more suggestions.
Ken Howard, Old Worcester Road. On the accessory thing, doesn't the state, I mean, wouldn't that responsibility fall on one of the store owners? I mean, if a 16-year-old kid goes into Sunny's store, as far as him buying a pipe or papers or whatever these accessories are, wouldn't, isn't
You
there
would
some kind
think.
of a law that so it's up to the store to check their ID?
I think is it 21 or 18?
Well, what about cigarettes? It's the same thing.
Yeah,
You just
it's
can't go in
vaping's
and
the
buy
big thing.
cigarettes or alcohol?
Yeah, but I mean, do you guys really have to, if the state's
Correct,
got its
right.
laws, do you guys really have to?
I
I
don't
mean, I
think
don't
so.
wanna see this stuff, I don't wanna see, one of my kids going to buy gummy bears with marijuana, but,
Well, right now, the state allows it,
you know.
but it could be further restricted.
If
But we can
they're-
restrict it further if we want.
If they're an adult.
I just got another quick thing on this. You were talking before, I know you said there's nothing about the cultivation sites on here, but I noticed at the bottom, as far as the size of the cultivation, that's crossed out to 10 acres or more, so what is the size?
It's gonna be special permit, so it's gonna come to our board, and we'll be able to look at the location and the size of the property. It was bigger because of agricultural,
Right.
for the original, and then there could be a smaller, even a 5 acre, a smaller piece, but like, sort of in the middle where with a lot of wetlands, or, someplace that's really restrictive, so they could, if there's nothing else to do with that property and that's what they're proposing, we could give the landowner the opportunity to do that. That's what the thought
And it's
process
still
was.
gonna be governed as far as like if the guy has 7 acres, he can only take up so much of that.
Right, so it would be
property.
by special permit, which gives us so VGG's in here by right, so all we can do is say, no, our engineer says you can't use the road because the sight lines are bad. If you want this, you need to do a curb cut, but we can't say, we can't throw it out unless we have, unless they're not in compliance with our bylaw, so we're very.
Just one clarification though, the cultivation is not a floor area square footage, it's a canopy square footage. So you could have shelving
Yeah.
that would allow, say, 100,000 square feet of canopy and perhaps a 50,000 square foot building. So you're not limiting the size of the building, you're limiting the size of the canopy space.
Yes, the shelves or whatever
Thank you for clarification.
Yes.
So
Another thing to look at.
VGG is 1 million square feet, they're not having 1 million square feet.
On the ground.
I think they said they have about 600,000 square feet of canopy space,
that. There was 860,000.
square feet of for cultivation. But I could be wrong, but I think that's what they said at the meeting.
With that size. All the same.
Right.
Okay.
Christine Rowe, 11 Prenier Road. So, for clarification, do I understand there's no limit on cultivation for permits for cultivation?
Right, and this there isn't.
And how does that change?
We thought, we thought that it would, because of the amount of industrial and really the opportunities that it would self-limit. But of course, that could be changed by us. It could be changed on the floor. If you say we want 2 or 5 or 1 or none,
So, yeah,
you could do that at the town meeting.
So at this point, it's just industrial only?
Only, yes.
that's
Yes.
true.
That's what we're proposing. Yes.
That's what the bylaw
Okay.
says.
That's
Yeah, the
what you're
peach areas.
proposing?
That's what we're proposing, and
That's what bylaw.
someone could get up and say, we want it everywhere again. And if that's what the majority wants, that's what they get, so. But if you look at most of our industrial, it's either on, that 169 over on the Southbridge side, or it's 20 in the front and Mass Pike in the back.
Yeah.
So and it's special permit, so yes, there's a couple of houses thrown in. We could say, no, you can't have it there, because there's too many houses too close. But that, with the special permit, we're allowed to do that. So if we have a room of abutters, or we have a neighbor that says, it's gonna be my backyard, we can have total right to just reject it on that, for that reason. That's what the use of the that's what the special permit does.
And then one other thing I'm very unclear about is with VGG, is that they can have people with licenses, companies with licenses come in, they're like an umbrella. How come that's not limited, those licenses, the amount of licenses there? If the town limits licenses, how is it that VGG could have 10?
I think they're grandfathered in before
They're
the law.
grandfathered in. We have no control over that because of, they came in before any zoning was presented at all.
So then my next question is that if there isn't a signed host agreement, how can any of this hold water?
I know that there are, this shouldn't be part of our discussion, but
Oh, okay.
part of if somebody was interested in appealing the whole entire process, that would be part of the piece that would be brought, saying the planning board saw it without a host agreement signed, this is part of the whole messy process, therefore it shouldn't be there. Part of the appeal, not part of us. Remember, we've never done anything before. We do not have we're lucky to have a consultant, but we haven't had a planner for over a year. We kind of got thrown in. It was truly a surprise. It seems like everybody else knew before we knew. So it kind of happened. We're making sure that we are following every single rule down to the little teeny second, absolutely. So that's.
So is there any way that the town, and I'm just learning the fundamentals, right? I'm trying to follow along. There's a lot, right? A lot of aspects to this. So is there any way that the town can say, whether it's the selectmen, and I'm not sure how else, that because there isn't a signed host agreement, we withdraw? I mean, how
The
can
selectmen can do anything, the selectmen can withdraw, they can do anything.
Signed host agreement with who, just generally? They don't,
BGG, right?
they already have a signed host
Yeah,
agreement.
they've
with
signed
what
it.
we did.
August 14th.
August
August
14th.
14th they have signed.
I keep, well, who am I hearing that doesn't have a
They
signed
they
agreement?
originally.
Fourscore.
Fourscore.
Sorry, that's the little guys down on 20. I have a question. So the selectmen voted unanimously on the 28th of August to put this zoning bylaw ban on the warrant for October. And then last night they were reminded of it and they were like, oh yeah, we're gonna put this placeholder. And Attorney Silverstein was there and he said, yeah, and I'll give you the sample language. And then he also said, and if that were to pass, that would mean in May, the election ballot would have to have two questions, the general bylaw ban and the zoning ban for the community to ponder. Things to ponder are never a bad thing. You can just say no if you don't like it, but it's nice to have options. Are you guys saying that there technically is required to be a hearing on that article and that the time limit is basically not available?
And we didn't know anything about it.
Right. No, it was their vote. It wasn't your meeting.
I'm not sure there would be enough time to.
Well, we don't have anything before us, so
Yeah.
we can't have.
No,
that.
I'm not trying to put any
Right.
blame here. I'm asking, like, is procedurally, there's like a time slice that you have to have before it gets on a warrant, that you had to review it and all
Yes.
this? And that's just totally,
Gone.
thank you.
For October.
That's what I was looking
Gone.
For the October, not for the May.
And you watched the
Right,
Board of
but-
Selectmen meeting. That gentleman got up there and talked. He thought that the board, planning board, you folks were planning a ban. And he was shocked, because I talked to
was
him
like, "You
afterwards.
voted
He was like,
weeks ago."
what do you mean what do you mean I said, they don't have it. I said, go to the planning board meeting. Don't complain to me. You have to go and see. I said to the guy, there is no,
What gentleman?
I don't know
Or
his
a
name.
selectman, you mean?
No,
it was a
no, no,
citizen.
a
A citizen
citizen.
showed up and was like, hey, you voted
Yeah.
unanimously.
He
We're all
was
unanimous."
He's
Yeah.
quoting their minutes.
He was
He was
having a discussion with the
literally quoted their
Board of
minutes off
Selectmen.
their phone.
He was pulling from their minutes,
Oh.
where they had actually voted to allow you
Unanimously.
to submit a ban.
So he
on
thought you
town
had
warrant.
submitted a
Because
ban.
they had said it was the will of the voters, and this would most closely match their intent. It was actually Robin's idea. She read this big long document of what would be a good idea to do, and then they all
Did everybody check their
voted.
emails? Was that in anybody's email? Did
No.
anybody get that?
Oh, I'm
Notice
not
that?
trying to point the finger, I'm
No,
just
I hear you.
explaining and asking, like, it just won't occur because the
So-
timeline's not.
Jane, are you sure you didn't get an email
So
from
this
Robin?
gentleman, no, this
Okay,
gentleman
just
was
making sure.
convinced that's what this meeting was about, and that a ban was coming. And he was shocked to find out it wasn't, and I said, well, I haven't heard anything about, I
Well,
think
we
it was-
saw the
So,
vote, we
so
were
this
all there.
bylaw bans it everywhere except for industrial zones.
Correct.
So that
maybe
goes a
that's what they
long
were
way
referring
to.
yes.
So I
That
guess
could
there's
be
a,
under-
we have a little gap in our,
And
in our
like I
warrant,
said,
so-
this is, litigation's gonna go on for a long time, because they are, I believe they're litigating the process.
And if
Right?
that's the
They're asking
case,
for clarification.
that's what needs to happen, because you know what, again, this is an evolving era. We don't know how the lands, how the courts are gonna rule. We'd like to put something in place now, because what's gonna happen in the courts, it's gonna go to court, it'll be decided
I
in
know.
court, but until a decision is made, we're trying to do something to keep it out of residential neighborhoods.
And-
Our idea is to have it not be your neighbor.
And the Board of Selectmen are talking about the cost of documents, discovery documents being $300 versus $1,300.
Oh, but that was a Jerry Russell request.
Yeah, but it must be part of litigation, no?
No,
It's
not
just the
necessarily.
public records are
Not
just
necessarily, okay.
it's
There's
just
active
like a US.
Freedom of
I
Information
have
Act and litigation is
board.
something different.
There's lots of towns, oh, Kristen, Carolyn Hill. Lots of towns have a general bylaw, like Dudley and Holden, right to farm, right? And then they pass zoning moratoriums on cultivation. How is it not the same, in the reverse, but the same as the conflict we have
Well,
here, right?
They
The
can't
thing that we're going to court
The
over.
lawyers.
Like, it exists all over the place.
It's gonna be decided all by land court and so previously they've allowed it.
Yeah.
But the word is that they won't allow it now because we have one. However, if you start bringing up some of our old meetings, I watch myself and shaking my head, going, we're not even sure how that even got passed. But that's not even, I mean, we if you've watched those meetings. So I think leaning either way is pretty silly because there's clearly tons of confusion,
Yeah, absolutely.
tons of finger pointing, and it was a messy process. So it wasn't like we had something awesome in place and now they're trying to kill it with a general bylaw.
Right.
It's really messy. So I have no assumptions. So in the meantime, let's
Yeah.
finish up this
Yes.
discussion and get something so we can have our submission for town meeting. Do we have more comments on the actual bylaw?
Rick Rowe, 11 Grenier Road. Once you guys agree on this, how do we make sure this is what gets to the town?
You will get a copy at town meeting, so when you come in, there will be copies.
My understanding when Article 27 came up last time, we thought we were presenting one thing and it turned out to be a little different than what you thought it was.
Exactly.
Well, what we presented in the hearing was what was in the warrant. But where the change was, some changes happened between when the document was created to the point where we got it at the hearing.
And we
Those were the
just-
changes,
we
and we
just-
just assumed it was the same, and, you know, when it's set on your desk and then you vote, and
Kinda
you just kind of
had
assume
some
it was the
movement.
same, but
Right.
And
some things
So
have
my
changed.
question is,
Jane,
you
when
know,
does
how
this
do we
get
make sure
posted?
that doesn't happen?
Because doesn't it get
again?
posted before the town meeting?
Oh, you'll have all of us with
Yes.
a copy,
Yeah.
reading.
What we
have
agree,
a copy
what we agree
tonight,
on
bring it
tonight
with
will
you.
be what is on the warrant.
I'm just making sure.
And anybody who's watching can please review.
Is-
We need all the backup we
Should
can.
also say that, you know, this, as a zoning article, requires a 2/3 vote at town meeting. So for the planning board's proposal to pass, 2/3 of
Correct.
the voters need to be in favor. If you don't get that 2/3, then it reverts back to what was in place before.
And it's gonna be very important to point that out to people, again, that they're not voting no to marijuana, they're voting no to putting it in their neighborhoods or putting it in their neighborhoods.
They're voting no to keep it in,
Exactly.
in, the agricultural zone.
Yes.
I mean, the big difference is that,
Yes.
I mean,
Industrial.
because the old one allows it in agricultural, and this one takes it out of agricultural. That's the big difference, so.
Yeah, everything that's what up here.
Yeah, so just as a point of fact, everything white up there is agricultural.
Yeah.
So this is keeping it out of everywhere except the peach zones.
Is that, maybe I'm not seeing the color the same, what's the big pink section in the center of town?
Right here?
This
No,
is
that's
a
not-
village district.
That's
Oh,
village district.
That's the
Trolley
same- That's not
crossing.
the same color?
No,
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 it's
there's
purple.
a,
Okay, all right, I don't.
And then this is neighborhood business up here. This-
Yeah, I see
So
that.
there's
Yeah.
just
point out the peachy
Yeah, would you
color
point out
too.
the peachy ones?
Over there.
IG here, IG here, then down below here on 169.
I'll take a little purple here, like they go on the middle.
For those of you who are
For colorblind, you
Yeah.
can see
Slightly
it.
purple, yeah.
So the idea is to keep it out of the white zones where
Well,
everyone
it's
lives.
slightly different color, it's a slightly different shade.
Okay,
Can I
one
just, first of all, thank you all for allowing this
Yes.
discussion.
Yeah, we
It's been
appreciate it.
very
Thank you.
respectful and it's a pleasure coming to planning board meetings. I've been to other meetings in town that the pleasure is not quite so much. I never leave here with a headache.
Tell all your friends.
Whatever you approve tonight as a board, thank you very much for posting this. Would you post what was approved, and that way people can look at it in advance of the town meeting? And people that are worried can print off what's approved,
before and
and they can
after.
compare it to what's
Correct.
being handed out and make sure that will put your mind at
Yeah.
ease.
How far ahead of the town meeting does the warrant have to be posted? Is it 48 hours before the town meeting, the town warrant has to
I
be
forget.
posted
I
somewhere?
don't know.
Well, as soon as this gets kind of cleaned up and we get our final, can we post it
We'll
to
post it
our?
on our
We'll
website.
post,
Right.
we'll post it on our page,
Thank you.
on the
Absolutely.
town.
Does
website.
FICOM need to look at this too, or is, no, they don't? the Board of Selectmen, nobody else needs to look at this to approve it, it's just.
It's
what we-
Everybody can look at it.
I
Because we
think
sponsor, I think because we sponsor.
Yeah, I
And
think we
sponsor,
sponsor, correct.
so.
And I think it's important to note that we can put amendments to this bill.
Yes.
That's the time.
Absolutely.
I'll make, when I, one of us will present.
Yes, you will.
And so,
Yes, you can.
could win the lottery by then.
Can I make one more quick comment? Just be careful on your amendments, because again, everything needs a 2/3 vote to pass. So
Yes.
anything you put up, you don't want, and I'm not trying to scare you against the other side, but you wanna make it so it passes. The idea being that this is supposed to help all of us.
I agree, but I guess my point of the matter is the people will at least get a chance to vote on it. And
Absolutely.
if they don't
That's
want
what
the
we want.
amendment, they'll vote it down.
Exactly.
And it is
And
a
then they
hard,
can
it's
go along.
2/3 is a hard vote.
Yeah.
I understand it's a hard vote, but people either have to stand up or they don't.
Right,
I mean,
and the better you can explain it, the better.
And I'm not, and I told you, I don't have an axe to grind either way.
Right.
So I am, my sole concern is the legal ramifications of having these conflicting zoning laws and general bylaws.
That's gonna have to work itself out in courts
Well,
at this point.
We can't.
Unfortunately, the selectmen could have made it easier by letting us vote
Well,
early,
it is what it
and then
is.
we could have.
Gotta go with the
The
vote.
good thing is that it gets the attention that it needs, and there's a final ruling, and it might cost a little bit of money, but it's gonna make everything clear and final, so.
And by the way, I don't think it's gonna pass, but I think people should vote.
And-
Well, no, I
and-
think they have a right to vote on it.
Sure, and one more thing to say, that the old zoning required special permit for everything.
Yeah.
So there's only one company right now that's grandfathered in as a right. Everything else needs special permit, everything else needs the planning board to.
You mean
sign up.
VGG and Green Gold?
Just VGG.
Just VGG.
Just VGG, good,
Hi, Noreen Smith, Presser Hill Road. So I have a question about the additional site plan requirements section. I'm just hearkening back to the concerns,
D.
D?
section D,
Okay.
sorry. And actually, it's that section and then the section, it's stricken as K and became J at the bottom, special permit conditions. So I'm just not sure if this might be covered in another zoning bylaw somewhere, but hearkening back to what people's concerns were relative to the VGG and facility, which surprised some of the residents, there were concerns about, because there's, I know nothing about marijuana growing, so I'm just disclosing, but what I heard in the meetings, because they use lighting and they control night and day, and it's actually better for them not to have outside light, but they try, some of them try to look like greenhouses, and so in order to prevent that, the glow that would come from a large facility that has lighting on at night, that would make you feel like you were next to the Worcester Airport, they had requested that they control the lighting with screens and shades, curtains.
Blackout curtains.
Blackout
Yes,
curtains, that
automatic
type of thing.
curtains.
So ambient lighting, not just adequate lighting for monitoring of building and site security, but actually controlling the, I don't know what that would be considered of, light pollution that would come from a facility that had no controls over that, light pollution. The other concern that was expressed from residents in that neighborhood of VGG was noise, relative to the power that's necessary to operate these types of facilities, and I don't see anything here that speaks to noise.
Noise, traffic, lighting, all standard part of what we do. If you look at
So they're covered in
what-
other bylaws.
Yeah, so what
Yes.
the planning board
Okay.
does is look at those elements, right? Traffic, lighting,
Green water.
drainage.
So
There's
it's
all
not
kind of special
necessary
permits.
to.
It's part of everything that we automatically do, and
Correct.
our engineers review
Heavily.
heavily and recalculate all of the
Yes.
applicants.
The noise is covered by state law.
Noise is covered, but we also do look at noise too.
Okay, so just relative to some of these things that were very specific to this type of
Correct.
manufacturing or growing facility, I didn't know if there was a need to be as specific about those other kinds of more general concerns, but including the light pollution, which is an unusual aspect of this type of a business?
The special permit allows us to really dig deep and
Yes.
ask all those questions.
And 3 covers a lot of that.
meetings, so if we forget a question, you can ask it.
But we don't.
I work full-time too.
I know.
But yes,
We
I'm
all do.
trying.
We-
I'm trying.
And 3 covers a lot of that. If you look at 3, to specify conditions related to design and construction of facility to improve safety, security, conformance with community and neighborhood standards.
And that neighborhood, and that
So
neighborhood
that covers,
character
that neighborhood
piece.
character covers a lot.
Covers a
Okay.
lot.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks.
So do we have anything else before I close and we?
I guess I have, oh, go ahead.
It's the one quick thing, not really about this, but this is the only public part, right? That I
Yes.
can ask a question?
Yeah, so then it would go, we would vote, we would close and vote, and then the next time you'd speak would be at town meeting if you wanted
No,
to
I
change
just had a
something.
question for you, I guess, for the planning board. And no offense to you, Bill, all you guys, I appreciate all the time you're doing. I can't imagine how much, especially with this, how much work this is, and, you know, we gotta rest from everything. But I watch a lot of the stuff on TV when I can, and, I can't help but notice the last planning board meeting I was at, the only time I ever see it on TV is at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm wondering, the first question is, how come a lot of that stuff isn't somewhere where you can look it up and see what's
You
planned?
can.
It's on the town website.
It's
True.
town of, it's
But I
town
never
of
see it during
Charlton
the day.
YouTube
Yeah,
channel.
there's
It's
There's a Charlton YouTube channel.
You mean on the TV?
Yeah, I watch
needs
192 on
Okay,
TV.
but
on
you
Okay,
can-
you can go to the website and then you can ask for planning in the search.
Correct.
And then it'll list all the planning board
Town of
tapes,
Charlton
and you just
YouTube.
click on the one you wanna watch.
On the computer.
Charlton YouTube.
You can just go right through from the website, from the town
Mhm.
of Charlton.
I was trying to
website.
go back to when VGG said they were gonna do, they were gonna do, medical science in that building, or medical research with marijuana, and then Mr. Rosenstein looked at everybody and said, "We never said that, I don't know where you get that from."
Drew,
I
what
was-
is it? Is it Charlton TV, the YouTube channel that all of our
TV
things
Charlton,
on?
Mass.
TV Charlton, Mass. So
I don't have
if you go
cable,
on
so.
through the computer.
Do you have an internet?
That's
Yes.
internet.
But
That's
if,
internet.
but if you go through the computer, you can stream it and you can search it, and it has
I don't have
every
cable either,
single,
but, yeah.
Yeah.
every single meeting.
Okay, yeah, I just,
He's just looking for a schedule for TV, not
And
internet.
we don't, it just, I think they all just run
I'm
on
behind
regular
the times.
TV.
Working on a new
Who's the
system.
expert?
Working on a new system, and that'll all be coming up soon. But right now, it's not very good.
My other question is, I see from watching these things, you know, when I can, seems like you have issues trying to find a planning director.
You know what?
Can the
They're looking for one.
Can the town really
You
sell?
submitting an
I mean,
application,
it's great
Ken?
that Bill's doing it, but I mean, is there any law or anything? I mean, can the town run so long on a temporary, or Bill says, hey, I'm going to Florida to see you?
We can run till
You know,
we
what
find
do we-
one.
what do we-
And we can run without,
But it seemed-
we could run without a planning director if we thought we were capable of doing
Well,
it.
I'm just
Yeah.
thinking with everything that's going on here, I mean, shouldn't
Yeah,
we
it would have been nice to have
Yes.
a planning
We,
director.
we
hire
are,
one.
we are
I agree with
advertising.
you.
We have ads out there,
Believe
we
me,
are
we're,
accepting
we're
applications.
soon gonna be
We are-
making TV commercials.
Yes.
We're gonna be acting in them to,
They've
you
been
know, look at
asking
us,
for it.
look at our
Yes.
wonderful board,
It's,
come and work
the
for us.
advertisements are out there.
We try, if you have
They did
time,
good help.
Yes.
you can recruit from other towns. We are not, above that, so send recruitment letters if you have a few minutes.
If you'd like to start in the commercial, we'll
Yeah.
take you.
Yep.
What we need is unemployment rate to go up a little bit so that we can get some more candidates. Right now, there's just way too many people working.
no, it's a fact.
Okay.
I
One more.
have a quick
Okay.
question. Is there any,
No system.
a lot of these facilities that grow wanna do cogen because it's cheaper than electricity, right? They wanna bring in natural gas. We got the gas line going this way and this way through Charlton, so we're kinda ripe for that. And now we got a place down on 20 that's gonna truck it out for you. They're gonna liquefy it, truck it to wherever you want. Are we gonna just allow cogen anywhere there's cultivation? I mean,
With a
Special
special permit,
permit.
we can say we don't
Okay,
think it's
exactly.
safe enough
can you
or.
limit the megawatt? Like,
You can do anything you
We
want
can do
in a
anything we
special
want with a
permit.
special permit.
Truly.
But not
We-
for VGG, because
Because
They were
they're
grandfathered
grandfathered
in by right.
in
Right, but I'm
as
just thinking for the
a
future, we got
I know,
Yes.
it's
lots
just-
of gas
Well,
and.
you know, the
Exactly.
cogen has to be accessory to the cultivation, so you can't use that as an
Rely on it.
excuse for producing power that goes into the grid. It's supposed to be provided for the cultivation. So you try to balance out how much power does the cultivation side need and size the cogen plant accordingly.
So they have to show you, I need 6 megawatts.
Right.
And they really can't be making 12
No,
in that
right.
case.
No,
You
because
only
then
need
Kirk can
6.
shut them down. And the whole purpose of special permit is to do what's best for the neighborhood, for the abutters, for that area, for that facility, so that you can look at every project specifically, rather than say, okay, you can only have 10 across the board. That facility should only have 3 or 6 or
So
whatever
you're
it is.
saying it's generally allowed, but the limit of the size is based on what the need is.
Exactly.
Thank you.
So I make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so, first, let's talk about the 100,000 square foot limit or any limit with or without a waiver. What, do
So,
we have any motions on
yeah, I make a
that?
motion that we add a paragraph K, saying no facility shall have in excess of 1,000 square feet of grow, floor, or canopy, or grow canopy. If that wording covers what we're looking for.
We know, we could
Yeah.
get the wording, he knows.
Correctly, so
he
something
knows.
to that effect that.
Do we wanna add the waiver piece to that, at the planning board's discretion?
We could do that. That's fine. That would give us more control in case we've got a big spot down here where.
I would second that motion.
All in favor?
Can you read that motion again then?
So,
Yeah.
no cultivation facility shall have in excess of 100 square feet of, 100,000
That's, okay.
square feet of grow, floor, or canopy.
Except with the waiver.
Um,
And then-
Except for waiver by planning board.
100,000 square feet of,
Of grow, floor, or canopy.
okay,
Except by waiver by the planning board.
Unless,
granted a waiver by the
Correct.
unless granted a waiver by the planning board.
And obviously, you can word it all professionally, whatever we
So-
need to.
So is that what we're voting on? Okay,
Yes.
so that was the
So-
motion,
And
so we
we all
seconded,
voted
we all agreed,
yes.
okay, good. Just wanna make sure that we're all
Yep.
That's all.
agreement with on video.
Yep, that's correct.
And
Second item, do we wanna add the accessories piece? We know that there are, that the Cannabis Commission did put that on their list for, places to consider. It does give us a nice cushy warm feeling with, families and all the kids we have in town.
I make a motion that we add another paragraph M, cannabis accessories may only be sold by establishments holding retail or medicinal licenses.
Yeah.
So we just add
So
another.
just add another
Where I
paragraph.
have L. Just leave that L.
Do we have a second?
could you read that again then?
Cannabis accessories may only be sold by establishments holding retail or medical licenses.
Marijuana licenses.
Retail or medical cannabis licenses.
Okay, so one more time.
Cannabis accessories may only be sold by establishments holding retail or medical cannabis licenses.
Do we have a second?
Second for discussion.
I think it might be a little police.
Yeah, I agree, because I think someplace like a Chet's Smoke Shop, who is not going to be, and I only use Chet's, I don't actually mean Chet's Smoke Shop, but it's someplace like that. I think they should have the right, under, free government, to open up if that's what town wants, and sell that kind of stuff. I wouldn't want my kid going into a smoke shop anyway, so I think, I just don't wanna I agree with Russ, I don't wanna over-police it. I'd be nervous about that because I don't know that it's enforceable.
Okay, or other establishments, other establishments. How can I put this?
I think the accessories limited, noted by the Cannabis Control Project, the whole definition. And remember, the CCC is not is recommending that for a reason. Will it be hard to police? Yes, but that's not our job to police it.
Okay, so cannabis accessories may only be sold by establishments holding retail medical cannabis licenses or establishments for adults, only tobacco sales.
Well,
That
I'm
would
thinking
also
that I
allow
don't-
a smoke shop, a cigar place to.
I don't want, you know, the Charlton community center, when they're renting out booths for their festival, to have, you know, somebody selling pipes and stuff
But
to
how
so
can you
many
limit
kids.
that?
Because it's a bylaw, they can't do it.
Or-
Do we really wanna open, I mean, we're not Northampton, do we really wanna, I know people quote me all the time and make fun of me, and that's fine. We need to be careful on what we're actually, I mean,
I think this would give enough people that if they wanted to buy it, they could go into a retail marijuana shop and buy whatever smoking materials they want. They could go into a cigar shop or a tobacco shop and buy whatever they wanted to do, but it would keep it out of
the main
the-
view of our families.
It would keep it out of the
that
variety
live in
stores that we
town.
have, the convenience stores that we have. There's quite a few of those in town. It would also prevent a head shop from opening up, strictly selling, you know, just paraphernalia, or
'Cause there are
vape
those.
shop. Yeah, you know, I mean, that could be, if they wanted to open up a cigar shop, vape shop, adult-only sales, they could sell it there. It would just keep it out of the convenience stores.
And
What
the
about-
festivals and
Festivals.
Old Home Day and,
What about?
There you go.
What about limiting sellers to the industrial zones? Making it a little bit simpler and just saying that it cannot be sold in anywhere but the industrial
now
zone.
it has
Well,
to, now
well-
it has to, because they're gonna have, that's the only place they can go anyway, so.
Yeah, I mean,
So if you're already,
I'm fine, I would second that, to just get the accessories, it's not a huge big deal.
Can I read it again?
Yes.
Cannabis accessories may only be sold by establishments holding retail medical cannabis license or establishments for adult-only tobacco sales.
I second that motion.
That would limit it to
Cigar
adult
shops,
stores,
okay,
cigar
that's fair.
shops,
That's fair.
head shops. If they
Yeah.
wanted to have a cigar shop, sell that stuff,
That's
vape
fair.
shop, sell that stuff. But kids can't go in there unless you're 21
Kids aren't
anyways.
even allowed in the
So
stores.
it'll keep it out of,
Yeah,
at least that
ridiculous
side.
things, okay.
Adults can do it, but it's not in the convenience stores.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Yeah.
Thank you. And was there another one? That's all I
I only
had.
have the two written down.
That's
Okay,
it.
that's all I
And don't we
had.
have to vote this?
We have to vote to accept,
Okay.
so,
With the
do
two amendments.
I have a motion to accept the plans with the amendments? So we have the two that we added, the accessories in the 100,000 square feet. We have to take out the special permit wording.
Yeah. Should we look at every time we use the word special permit?
We probably should.
I mean,
Authorized by only in districts set forth, let's take out special permit.
well then doesn't that defeat?
No, in A it fits, but in B
Yeah,
and C
if
it
it's
does
B
not.
and if C, it does not fit.
Yes.
A it fits.
So
B
B and C.
Everything else is by special permit. This is just
Okay,
the limiting, everything else
Numbers.
could stay.
okay.
Because everything else needs a special.
Yeah, so
permit.
just out of,
So we're not approving the retail dispensing sites by special permit?
no, because we want everyone to count. So,
Right.
so we're
how you
limiting,
Okay.
we're limiting.
Right.
we're-
Just for the counts.
Yeah,
Exactly.
just for the count, so just on those, so that change. We're adding recreational retail.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
to that,
To see.
Yes.
And we put in K.
and we're adding those to the
K and
K and M
M.
for the last, for the two that.
I would second that.
And all,
So this is to approve, so.
So do we have a motion?
We have a motion, a second.
with all the things we just talked
Yes.
about.
Yep. Okay. Do we have discussion? We have a
Do I have a
motion.
second?
We have a
Yeah,
second.
Second it? Yep.
All
Do we have
in
a
favor?
discussion?
Aye.
Do you want to discuss first? No discussion? Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
There you go.
So there we have it.
It was a struggle, but we made it.
Thank you guys for your suggestions.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, everybody.
Thank you for all your hard work.
That's just
Thank you
people
for
that
your
care.
input.
Yeah.
A lot.
So it's 7:30, we can go on. Growth management now.
Don, next time you have some snacks and drinks and stuff.
We'll try,
We
we'll
keep on
try.
asking, we're asking to up our budget a little bit to maybe have some nachos or something.
That's why we like the senior center, there's usually some snacks out back there.
They should have vending machines out here, there you go. Have a good night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, you too.
Girl Scout cookies too.
Oh, yeah, so.
So,
You can do that.
Oh, wait.
Girl Scout cookie set up front here
You could
during
do really
meetings.
well.
totally gonna do
Kill it.
that.
Yeah.
During meetings, absolutely.
Did you ever do that, Bill?
They haven't called her back yet.
I appreciate it.
I've not heard from the fruit lady yet. She
Email
signed
me,
up.
remind me, I'll make sure that you.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, can I ask a question? I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. I didn't.
We want you to get your articles completely right, so
And I'm a couple minutes past deadline, so I don't wanna send this, I was gonna send it without, if you don't mind, I'll just ask for clarification. The board also added a clause that restricts the sale of marijuana accessories to licensed medical.
And retail.
And
a licensed
Or
facility.
facilities that hold a medical or retail license,
as well
or
as.
adult tobacco.
Oh, that's
Adult tobacco sales.
for adult tobacco, that's what I'm missing, thank you so much.
Do we have any other discussions? Anything else that we need to
Yeah,
talk
we
about?
do. We want to discuss.
All
Oh,
for
the
that.
meeting.
The meeting.
Oh, yeah. All right, so we have a November 1st meeting, the day,
21st.
I'm sorry, no, November 21st, meeting, the day before Thanksgiving. And I know everybody really, really wants to be here, but,
Would you like to move that meeting?
yes.
Yeah.
So.
Because I can't be here that night anyway, because I do a Shepherd Hill football dinner, for the credit union, so,
You gotcha.
yes.
And I'm going to the Shepherd Hill dinner for the credit union.
That's okay.
No, that's fine. No, that's fine.
Maybe we'll all go.
Yeah.
Sounded good. I wasn't gonna go,
We'll
but
have
it does sound
quorum
good.
and we
That's
won't
right.
look-
Cohasset Country Club, come on along, send me a
Did
number.
we schedule any hearings for the 21st?
Not that I know of, I don't think we.
I thought we
Yes.
did too.
I thought we did.
Yes, Curtis Hill.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
We did, that's
Right.
right.
Right. But we need it's a special permit, so we need at least 4 members.
Right, so,
Can we just move them, see
Can't we
if,
just move-
see if they'll come the
move?
28th?
I guess.
I mean, it's so far in advance, I
the
mean,
neighbors might be upset because.
Yeah, but if it's this far in advance,
And it's the day before Thanksgiving, right,
they're not gonna wanna be here either.
they're not going to be
Yeah.
here either.
either that, or if you can't make the 28th, can we go a week, give him a choice the week before?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
maybe this
we-
14th.
We'll
That's
try to
that's perfect.
accommodate him.
We can fit them in the before or after, whatever, and they,
Who was that cleaning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 14th or the 28th.
Or no, wait, 14th, we do have a meeting.
We do? No, that was the
First and
7th.
third.
17th of October.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So, that would be either the 14th or the 28th.
I know our, I know our
and
needs
21st.
are getting filled up, but get them, whatever.
Look at the chart here.
Oh, okay, let's see.
7th and the 21st November. Could do the 14th.
Yeah. Do the 14th or the 28th, whichever they prefer.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll have to make that decision at the next meeting then. Okay.
I know we got the printout for the fall workshops, and I know a
Yes.
few of us can't go, but if anybody's interested, I think, you might be able to go and actually lecture on it, just kidding. It's about, there's one that's on, adult use recreational marijuana, and it actually, and it's being,
Pioneer Valley?
it's a Pioneer Valley one, so it, maybe it's something that we would,
If I would be around, I would go.
It's too bad they can't do it, through streaming, because it would be so much easier.
Mm.
Maybe, CMRPC will have something.
yeah, we can,
Check with them.
I'm sure there's a
That's
need for it,
Thursday
so
night.
just so everybody
But
knows.
if anybody wants,
The planning board will pay for whatever training that anybody is interested. There's a bunch in here if you're interested in any too. Anything else?
I'd just like to point out, next year there's a map on that chalk space. That is a new map that just came in this week. It shows all the chapter properties in town. The forest and agricultural lands and recreational lands in the chapter. So it's very helpful to have that to check to see
Yes.
whether an application that's come before you is in chapter, so that we can therefore
Excellent.
let the
That's
assessors know.
And Bill was telling me that the parcels, the Gunter parcels they're still in 61A.
For the Boucher Road
For the Boucher.
site, yes.
So we need to keep that in mind and make sure nothing gets approved without that being, a condition.
Right.
Condition before building permit, just so we don't get into a unnecessary.
It's hard to tell the difference
Yes.
in colors, and especially between these two.
Exactly.
I know.
These two and these two.
But at least
So
we know it's in
that's-
chapter, so we can figure out which
Yeah.
one. And then the last item, the change in grade of the planning judge position is on the warrant.
Yeah.
So, at your request, and a couple of other positions are also
Yes.
being proposed to move to NA as well. The building commissioner, the assessor, and I think one other.
We don't have any say-so on that per se, do we?
On the town floor, we would. We want to change it.
Well, I was looking it over and I don't know if I brought it. Yes, I did. How about that? Over here, they give a pay range, and some of the actual pay is higher than the pay range.
Oh.
Yeah, is that what they're trying to change and get into line? I mean, like an N1, it's like $11 to $11.77, and we have a person making $12.61.
That must be the cost of living raises that get it.
Yeah, I'm not aware of
I
that.
thought it was just moving the classifications up of the town planner, the building commissioner,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
the
Manager,
assessor, and
all
those, just
sort of
those three.
equally paid for the work
Yeah.
that
So
they
they
do.
get the
Right.
negotiated cost of living and might just get up higher than the.
Yeah,
the
why
step.
have the steps when you're not gonna live by it?
Yeah, I would
Because,
think,
again,
yeah,
they're
good
gonna
question.
get their cost of, they're getting their cost of living they're
Yeah,
getting
see,
their
like
cost
it-
of living every year. And so it goes up over, the longer,
This one's 60, 69.
I mean, that's a big difference.
yeah, it is huge.
Right.
And didn't we at the town meeting, wasn't the planner's job funded at 95,000?
Yep,
Yeah,
the planning
so
job was,
I'm in
it
disagreement where it
was
should be
92,
92.
Right.
something.
So,
Yeah.
because the only thing I don't wanna see happen is
Everybody
if we
gets a raise.
no, if we hire a planner and they're at that range and they say, oh, well, they're out of that pay range according to
Right.
this chart.
Exactly,
So it
that's what
should
I'm
be
getting at.
bumped up to meet the range that was approved on by the town meeting voters.
Yeah.
And it's not, and it's out of the range, it's under the range where it was voted on.
Correct.
So it doesn't
That's
make
what I
sense. It
was
should be bumped up to an N9, in my opinion, just looking at it.
Right. So
One
we-
question, do we know that the hours, these hourly rates, pay rate for hours, are they based on 40 hours or 37 and a half hours? That makes it-
37.5, right?
Whatever the town normal.
Whatever the normal.
Well, we
Normal work week
advertise
is-
planning board
At
as
40.
At
At
40.
40, we did, right.
I was
So-
told it was 40. I asked Robin that question.
And I asked too, and I was told 42.
Yes.
So that makes two of us that got the same
Okay.
answer. So I think we need to take the range and multiply it by 40 and see which one this should be.
Yes.
And if it should be a 9 or a 10, then
Correct.
it needs to be.
Right, based on the town's vote.
Right, okay.
So will you just, do you wanna just calculate that
Yep,
out?
I can do
and-
that.
And,
I can do that right now.
one of us will, I'm just trying to get out of here. One of us will make the motion to increase that. I think the town is pretty sympathetic to our board at this point, and they would probably give us just about, anything, because we're in just such desperate need.
We're a needy board.
We are very needy board. Whatever. I'll beg. I don't care. I'll cry.
As Mr. Cloutier pointed out, we're at such a point where anything we do from this point forward could be taken to court because it's so
Right.
indecisive that we need someone, and again, you've been awesome, but we need someone full-time in the seat who's going to be here.
All right, so.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.